Chapter 53-26. Perfect Supreme. Linling, I believe in you. Yu Yu heavily nodded her head. Linling's hands moved slightly and a ray of light floated out from his body. This ray of light was Yu Yu's memories before she was reincarnated. However, it wasn't complete and a part of it was hidden in Feng Moyang's body. These two memories needed to fuse together before Feng Moyang could become Yu Yu again. Controlling this wisp of memory, Linling carefully wrapped it with divinity, soul force, and universe force. After all, this wisp of memory was very fragile. If it were to suffer a heavy blow, it might turn into ashes. This formless energy quietly entered Feng Moyang's body, and then flowed through his limbs, bones, and internal organs. Linling immediately noticed that after the ray of light entered, Feng Moyang's body clearly changed. Although this change was very weak, it was still noticed by Linling. This meant that Feng Moyang was catering to that wisp of memory. Feng Moyang is indeed Yu Yu. Linling was even more certain. He moved forward with that wisp of memory, searching for the seal within Feng Moyang's body. Gradually, Linling finally sensed the seal within Feng Moyang's soul. The seal was blue in color, and had a large number of complicated runes on its surface. At this moment, it was motionless and extremely mysterious. Linling didn't dare to cause too much of a commotion. After all, this was Feng Moyang's body. If he wasn't careful, Feng Moyang would be heavily injured. He gradually approached the seal and then mobilized divinity, soul force, universe force, and world will force to attack the seal. Pung. The moment he touched the seal, the blue light suddenly flourished and an ancient majestic aura bloomed. It was extremely terrifying. Bang. There was a rumbling sound. Feng Moyang's body seemed to have turned into a universe as a powerful force protected her. The blue seal awakened and turned into a tall ancestral snake. The snake raised its head high and looked down on Linling's power. Who is it? A clear voice sounded at the same time, mixed with a thick majestic aura. What a powerful force. Linling was shocked. He could sense that this power was different from all the powers he had encountered in the Dao Pagoda. It was more like the power of the Chaos Realm. This was the power of the Hegemon Yuhua. However, what made Linling let out a sigh of relief was that after this power awakened, the first thing it did was to protect Feng Moyang. This meant that even if a great battle broke out in Feng Moyang's body, it would not affect Feng Moyang. Linling. Linling's soul responded. He was Yu Yu's husband, so he had to admit it openly. You're Linling. Surprisingly, Yuhua actually knew Linling. You finally found her. But let me tell you, she's my child. No one can take her away. Although you are the host body of the world will, and have an illustrious reputation in the Dao Pagoda, this is not the reason you can take her away. Even if your master, Patriarch Bodhi, was here, he still wouldn't have the qualifications. For the sake of your master, I'll spare you this time. Now scram. The woman's voice was cold and dignified. What made Linling shocked was that this was only a seal, but it gave Linling a feeling of worship, as if he was looking at the ancestor of all life in the universe. According to legend, the Hegemon Yuhua had once mended the heavens and created all life in the universe when it was first formed. It could be said that she was also a creation god. However, what she created was not the universe, but all life. From this point of view, she was still weaker than the creation god. Is the power of a ruler so strong? No, impossible. She should be in existence above the rulers. Linling's thoughts raced. This was the first time he had fought against such a powerful ancient god. Linling's current cultivation realm was at the early stage of the deity realm, but he was sure that he could fight against a late-stage deity realm universe giant. If the deity's body and origin were ordinary, Linling could even defeat the other party. Therefore, although Linling had never seen the power of a ruler, he could vaguely guess a thing or two. Yuhua's power had definitely surpassed that of a ruler. I'm sorry, but I Linling can't do it. Linling put away his thoughts and said firmly, I don't care if you are Yuhua or a creation god. Yu Yu is my wife, so no one can take her away. After saying that, Linling activated all his power and blasted it toward the blue ancestral serpent. You are very bold, but do you think you can fight against me with your strength? The blue ancestral serpent seemed to be enraged, and it burned like a flame. However, When Linling's power came crashing down, the blue ancestral serpent was clearly affected. It then exclaimed, "You actually control so much power." She could clearly sense that Linling had powerful soul energy, deity energy, universe energy, and world will energy. Soul energy and world will energy, especially, were unique existences in the current universe. After all, most gods only controlled deity energy and universe energy. "I won't let you have your way." The blue ancestral serpent was blocking the impact of Linling's 4 powers, but Linling could sense that the ancestral serpent couldn't block them at all. After all, this was just a seal. However, Linling had to be careful of the power that came from outside Linling's universe. Sure enough, a voice sounded in Linling's soul. "Fellow Taoist, outside the universe, there are several more powerful forces that are now attacking Linling's universe. Fellow Taoist, we can't hold on any longer. That force is about to enter Linling's universe." "Fellow Taoist, that force rushed into the universe and is rushing here quickly." The voice came from Linling's doppelganger, which made Linling's expression change drastically. Nuwa's strength was terrifying. One had to know that he was on the 6th level, while Nuwa was in the primal chaos realm. However, Nuwa was able to rush into the 6th level with a powerful force and find him in the vast 6th level. "Mobilize the laws of the universe and block her with all your strength." Linling's soul transmitted a message. This was Linling's universe, and it was Linling's territory. He didn't believe that an outsider could escape the control of a universe god. Unfortunately, Linling was in for an accident this time. Although Linling was the god of creation in Linling's universe, Nuwa's strength was too strong. She had the power to ignore a large number of laws. At this moment, a large number of figures were seated cross-legged in the outside world, and they were utilizing the laws to resist a dense mist that was like the glow of a sunset. The mist seemed to be profound, yet it contained an extremely formidable force, and any laws had an extremely small effect on it. "Linling, Nuwa is here. How much longer do you need on your side?" At this moment, a familiar voice was heard. It was Guangqingzi. "At least 3 incense sticks time," Linling said anxiously. "Okay, release us. We will try our best to block for you for 3 incense sticks time," Guangqingzi said solemnly. Linling was now in control of 4 square prisons, which imprisoned countless gods after the creation of the universe. Among these gods, there must be some super strong existences. If they join forces, they should be able to hold on for 3 incense sticks time for Linling. "Get out!" In the outside world, Linling stretched out his hand, and the 4 square prisons floated out. Then countless rays of light shot out and turned into ancient gods. Chapter 53:27. Nuwa is here. Countless gods appeared in the Linling universe. They looked at the sunset in the distance solemnly, and their auras were both strong and weak. Although they were gods who had survived the great tribulation of the world's will, and most of them were very powerful, they were extremely afraid of Nuwa. After all, Nuwa was extremely famous in their era. "Square prison." A cold voice floated out. It was Nuwa's voice. With her knowledge, she instantly recognized the origins of these gods. What surprised her was that the 4 square prisons were actually obtained by Linling. This Linling was quite amazing. "Lady Nuwa." The voices of the gods were somewhat solemn, including Guangqingzi's. Nuwa. Among them, the Monkey King did not dare to be too arrogant. After all, his original body was actually the divine sky-mending stone in Nuwa's hand. It could be said that most of the gods present were related to Nuwa, as if they were her people and descendants. "How dare you stop me? Get out of my way." The sunset emitted anger and majesty, making the gods make way for her. The will in the hearts of the gods was shaken, and they did not dare to stop Nuwa. "Everyone, Linling is the Lord above you. His orders are equally important to you." At this time, Linling's clones in the distance shouted in unison, reminding the gods. The expressions of the gods changed, and hesitation appeared in their hearts. "Yes, we are sinners who have been imprisoned in the square prison for tens of billions of years. The only one who can return our freedom is the prison lord." At this time, Guangqingzi also shouted, "Lady Nuwa has been kind to us, but now we belong to the square prison, the god of creation." When his voice faded away, the eyes of the gods gradually became firm. Nuwa was the oldest god in the universe, and had created all the creatures in the universe. However, there was an even older god who had created the entire universe, and this person was the god of creation. The square prison was created by the god of creation, which meant that the god behind them was the god of creation. From this point of view, they should listen to Linling. How dare you? Nuwa's voice was filled with anger when she sensed everyone's intentions. Moreover, she also sensed that Linling had reached a critical moment in breaking the seal. Then let's see how you lot are going to stop me. The sunset glow surged, blotting out the sky and engulfing the deities. Stop her! Guangqingzi roared and led the gods to attack Nuwa. They were powerful and numerous, so the power they could unleash was extremely terrifying. Most importantly, there were quite a few sovereigns amongst them. However, the most terrifying thing was that the sunset glow seemed to be able to ignore the power of gods and the power of the universe. Many gods roared, life force. They sensed that their bodies were withering, and their life force was continuously disappearing. I can create all life in the universe, and I can also destroy all life in the universe. Nuwa's cold voice drifted out. It was so ruthless and so decisive. In the face of such a powerful force, the gods simply couldn't resist Nuwa's means. What appeared here is only a trace of Lord Nuwa's will, but a trace of her will is already so strong. If Lord Nuwa's true body is here, who in the universe can stop her? Guangqingzi could also sense that his life force was disappearing, and his body was becoming extremely weak. However, when he thought of the mission Linling had entrusted to him, he gritted his teeth and endured it. Everyone form a huge whirlpool. Someone shouted, causing the eyes of all the gods to light up. Guangqingzi looked in the direction of the voice and realized that it was the mysterious green-robed Taoist who had spoken. However, he was right. The strongest thing in the square prison was still that huge ancient whirlpool. Linling. Guangqingzi also roared and asked Linling to help. At this moment, Linling was rapidly breaking the seal, but the power left in Feng Moyang's body was also very tenacious and repeatedly injured Linling. After hearing Guangqingzi's suggestion, he immediately controlled the 4-square prison to rotate. Rumble. In Linling's universe, the 4 floating stone tablets slowly moved, and their speed became faster and faster, gradually forming a huge whirlpool. At the edge of the whirlpool, the various gods were assisting. It has to be said that after the huge whirlpool was formed, it formed a powerful force that resisted Nuwa's life force. The seemingly beautiful but ruthless sunset was actually sucked into the huge whirlpool after encountering it. Linling, don't think that this little trick can stop me. Nuwa's voice became a little more sinister. To her, Feng Moyang was her child and the child she doted on the most. She could not allow others to take her away. One must know that for a god of creation like Nuwa, after experiencing so many years, she was already used to seeing birth, old age, sickness, and death. To her, all living things were ants. Even if her disciple died in front of her, she would not be moved. However, if it was her children, it would be different. In the entire vast universe, they were the only things that could move her. If you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. Including Linling and countless other gods, to Nuwa, they were just a speck of dust. An even more powerful force came through the void, like the supreme power of the universe, sweeping in all directions. Nuwa once again mobilized a portion of her strength to Linling's universe. The first to be affected was the huge whirlpool in the square prison. This huge whirlpool actually began to slowly stop. The second to be affected was Linling. From Feng Moyang's seal, a vast force was reflected back. With Linling's current strength, it was simply impossible for him to resist. What a powerful strength! Linling was shocked. He could feel that his soul force had been destroyed. One must know that this was only a portion of Nuwa's power that reached Linling's universe from the primal chaos realm. Yet this was already difficult for Linling to resist. If Nuwa's main body came, she would probably only need to move her eyebrows to turn Linling into ashes. I don't believe it. At the crucial moment, Linling's soul force also reflected a stubborn will. He, Linling, came from ancient Yin sect. He had already experienced countless twists and turns in his life. He was also the only martial artist in the Heaven Mystics Kingdom, and even in that world, who had survived the Great Calamity. Now, although he had met the powerful Niuhua, Lin Ling's firm will that had been cultivated all this time was also supporting him. He and Yu were separated by life and death. It was not easy for them to reunite. How could he give up now? If he fell here, Lin Ling would never forgive himself for the rest of his life. His soul power, which had been extinguished, was once again ignited, as if a seed was sprouting. In the outside world, the square prison that was gradually becoming motionless suddenly started to rotate again. However, the speed was not as fast as it was at the beginning. With just you, Niuhua's disdainful voice resounded amidst the rolling sunset. She could sense that the seal in Feng Moyang's body was just a hair's breadth away from being undone. However, this tiny bit was like a vast ocean to Lin Ling. It was impossible for him to succeed. Although Lin Ling's soul power had reignited from the ashes, it was as simple as a thought for her to destroy that soul power again. Chapter 53:28. Lin Ling's soul force carries all kinds of power as it continues to attack the seal within Feng Moyang's body. Now that seal is on the verge of collapse. Just a little bit more. I will definitely succeed. Lin Ling's soul force is filled with concentration. He can already see a ray of light. Feng Moyang is sitting cross-legged. Although she can't sense the changes in the outside world, she can still sense Lin Ling's persistence. Lin Ling, you can definitely do it. Feng Moyang mutters in her heart. Moreover, she has already sensed the arrival of her mother. Regarding this, her heart is extremely complicated. Niuhua is very good to her, and is also her most respected mother. However, she also wants to know her lost memories. Young, or why are you helping this man? At this time, a gentle voice arrives. Feng Moyang can clearly hear that this is Niuhua's voice. Mother! Feng Xiang calls out in her heart. However, she is unable to answer Niuhua's question. Stop him. Don't let him succeed. I believe that you have been deceived by him. Mother, I believe him. Feng Moyang finally replied, his thoughts carrying a hint of firmness. Younger, he is the world will's host body. How can you believe his words? I am your mother. Niuhua's voice is filled with anger and majesty. Although Niuhua has always cared for Feng Moyang, she has always been very strict with her children. Mother, Young, you have grown up. You have already started to not listen to mother's words. You have disappointed me. I order you to immediately stop him. Niuhua furiously says. Feng Moyang would not stop Lin Ling at all. However, Niuhua was her mother after all. She had raised her since she was young. Feng Moyang had always followed Niuhua when she was young. She knew that Niuhua was really good to her, but she was a little strict and did not allow her children to make any mistakes. I can't do it. Feng Moyang finally resolves her thoughts. This is also the first time she has rebelled against Niuhua since young. Niuhua is clearly not used to this and is even more furious. He is only helping me recover my lost memories. I also want to know those memories. So forgive your daughter for being unfilial. Even if he is really helping you recover your memories, those are your memories from your previous lives. These memories no longer belong to you. The you in this life is the real you. I know. However, if I don't have the chance to know my past memories, I will not be reluctant. But if I have this chance, I want to know what I did in my previous life and who I am. Young, if you insist on going your own way, don't call me mother from now on. Mother. Under Niuhua's final threat, Feng Moyang remained firm in her decision. However, when she thought of Niuhua's words, she still felt extremely sad. Lin Ling, what have you done to my daughter? Niuhua was furious. Once again, she gathered a powerful force and attacked the Lin Ling universe. Rumble. Under the impact of the wave-like sunset glow, the prison that had just started spinning was completely frozen. Stop her! Guang Qingzi and the rest's faces changed. They frantically tried to block the life force of the sun. However, this time Niuhua is clearly angry. She ignored them and turned into a wave, sending them all flying. Her power is too strong. So strong that it is beyond everyone's imagination. After this power sent Guang Qingzi and the rest flying, it swept through all of Lin Ling's avatars and finally rushed into Lin Ling's body. At this moment, The seal has reached the most critical moment. However, Lin Ling instantly felt a powerful force rushing in. This force is so fierce that it is beyond his imagination, causing him to be unable to fight back. Lin Ling. A majestic voice resounds in Lin Ling's soul. Niwa. Lin Ling roars, knowing that a great disaster is about to befall him. How can my daughter be touched by a small god like you? Even if you are the host of the world in my eyes, you are still an ant. Niwa's voice is like the might of the heavens, wanting to erase Lin Ling. However, just as Lin Ling thought that death is inevitable, a kind voice suddenly resounds in Lin Ling's mind. Child. A warm feeling surges through his body, especially his soul force. Lin Ling feels the most comfortable. It has to be known that Niwa's constant attacks have caused his soul force to be severely damaged. This is also the first time in his life that Lin Ling's soul force has been damaged. However, after that kind voice resounds, his soul force continues to recover. Then Lin Ling sees a massive Bodhi ancient tree appear in his mind. The Bodhi ancient tree gently swayed, sprinkling down sparkling light. Master. Lin Ling instantly knows who is helping him. Patriarch Bodhi. Niwa also noticed that Lin Ling is being protected. She is furious because she was so close to killing Lin Ling and rescuing her daughter. Patriarch Bodhi, your disciple wants to take my daughter away. As his master, not only did you not discipline him, you even condone him. How should you punish yourself? Niwa yells at Patriarch Bodhi. Niwa, my disciple and your daughter are fated by the heavens. Outsiders should not interfere in their matters. Fate is fate. Let the universe decide everything. In your dreams. Niwa's voice is sharp. However, Patriarch Bodhi does not explain anything to her. He only protects Lin Ling with his supreme strength. At the same time, Lin Ling uses this opportunity to break the seal. Niwa's energy is chaotic, but there is nothing she can do. After a few more attempts, she finally gives up. Lin Ling, this matter is not over. Sooner or later, I will bring my daughter back. After threatening Lin Ling, Niwa's energy begins to retreat. Within Lin Ling universe, the roiling sunset glow recedes like a receding tide. She left. Seeing Niwa leave, Guangchengzi and the other gods felt as though they had just survived a calamity. The originally turbulent Lin Ling universe also began to regain its tranquility. It is hard to imagine that if this continues, the entire universe will collapse. Success. Within Feng Moyang's body, Lin Ling can clearly sense that the seal on Feng Moyang has disappeared. He hurriedly withdrew his soul force. Lin Ling, Niwa will not let this matter rest. You had better leave the 6th floor immediately. Patriarch Bodhi's benevolent voice comes, carrying a hint of a smile. Thank you, Master. No need to thank me. After you became my disciple, I have not helped you much. This time, it can be considered that I have fulfilled my responsibility as a master. You should also quickly go to the 7th floor. The closer you are to the peak of the Dao Tower, the weaker Niwa's power becomes. Unless she can personally come to the Dao Tower. Master, will she come to the Dao Tower? The primal chaos realm is already collapsing. At that time, the 8 gods of the primal chaos realm will enter the Dao Tower. At that time, I fear that the universe will be filled with a reign of terror. Alright, Master is leaving. Take care of yourself. Thank you, Master. After chatting with Patriarch Bodhi for a while, Lin Ling stood up. He discovered that not only was his soul force not injured, it had actually improved. Then he looked at Feng Moyang expectantly. He did not know if the Feng Moyang who opened her eyes again will be Yu or Feng Moyang. Chapter 53:29. Feng Moyang sat cross-legged as her long eyelashes fluttered. Lin Ling looked at her expectantly. Suddenly, he saw Feng Moyang slowly open her eyes. Yu. Lin Ling softly called out. Feng Moyang's eyes gradually opened as a familiar light flickered in her eyes. She suddenly stared at the man in front of her as her expression drastically changed, and gradually revealed a smile. Brother Ling. She softly called out. That voice was very familiar as if he had not heard it for several centuries. Yu. Lin Ling's entire body trembled. He knew that Yu had returned. His eyes instantly moistened as he walked towards Yu step by step. Brother Ling. Feng Moyang also stood up and walked towards Lin Ling step by step. Although her appearance had changed, her temperament was exactly the same as Yu. I finally found you. Feng Moyang's pace was very slow at the beginning but gradually sped up. She suddenly pounced towards Lin Ling and hugged Lin Ling. That's right, you finally found me. Lin Ling tightly hugged Yu in his embrace, as if he wanted to melt her into his body. Ever since the battle at Ocean Sacred City, Lin Ling's family and friends had all died. It was Lin Ling who went on a killing spree in the underworld, and found the souls of his family and friends one by one and brought them back. The only one missing was Yu. After Lin Ling returned from the underworld, he traveled all over the world to the Chaos Realm, but he did not find Yu. What he did not expect was that after he entered the Chaos Realm, the first person he saw was Yu. It was just that he missed her and brushed past Yu. Now that he thought about it, it was as if it was destined by the underworld. The two of them hugged like this for a very long time. The feelings between them could be traced back to the distant era. There was no need to say anything to each other. Time passed quietly. Lin Ling suddenly smiled and said, "Let's go and see Grandpa and the others." As soon as he finished speaking, he took a step forward. It was as if he was moving through the void. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in another part of the sky. Congratulations, fellow Taoist. All of Lin Ling's doppelgangers cupped their hands towards Lin Ling, feeling happy for Lin Ling. They were all Lin Ling's doppelgangers, so they could sense Lin Ling's excitement at this moment. Lin Ling, congratulations. Master Guangqing and the others were also laughing loudly. Thank you, everyone. Lin Ling nodded at everyone and waved his right hand. The square prison took Guangqingzi and the others back. His avatars also left one after another to stabilize the Lin Ling universe. Previously, when Lady Nuwa wreaked havoc here, Lin Ling universe almost collapsed. Fortunately, Patriarch Bodhi appeared at the critical moment and blocked Lady Nuwa's attack for Lin Ling. Now, under the efforts of his doppelgangers, Lin Ling universe was also rapidly recovering. Lin Ling naturally had no time to care about Lin Ling universe. He took another step and appeared in front of Patriarch Extreme Flame and the others. At this moment, all of Lin Ling's relatives were gathered together. When Lin Ling and Yu appeared, everyone trembled with excitement. Yu, you're back? Patriarch Extreme Flame and Mo Nianchen were the first to rush out, and then held Yu's hand. They could not help but tear up. Yu was Lin Ling's first woman, and also his first wife. Everyone knew this. Everyone come back. Lin Ling shouted into the void again. When Yu and the others heard the news, they all used their Dao to return to the heavenly plane and ran back happily. Figures appeared one after another. And Yu and the rest looked at Yu excitedly. Although Yu's appearance did not change, her temperament had changed. Especially the way she looked at them had changed. Now Yu could be considered a combination of Yu and Feng Moyang. Sister Yu looked at the familiar faces and cried and laughed. Then she rushed over and hugged everyone. You're finally back. And Yu and the others were very happy and cherished everything that had not come easy. Lin Ling looked at the reunion of his family and felt a sense of pride in his heart. He fought outside, fought against gods from all sides, and repeatedly walked between life and death. The belief that supported him to live and fight was these family members. It's rare for you to come back. Everyone stay at home for a few more days. Ancestor Taiyin said to everyone. In the following days, Lin Ling did not leave the Lin Ling universe. Instead, he accompanied Yu and Yu and the others. The days passed peacefully and happily. At some point, Lin Ling even thought of living like this for the rest of his life. After all, he had been fighting for too long. From an unknown warrior to the top giant god of the universe, he was tired and wanted to live a simple and happy life. Of course, Lin Ling knew that this was only a temporary thought. He now had too many enemies. If he stopped fighting, then there would be a great calamity waiting for them. The best-case scenario was that all of them would die, and the worst-case scenario was unpredictable. Therefore, Lin Ling could not stop. Several days later, Lin Ling took Yu and the others on a journey back to the 6th floor of the Dao Pagoda. Lin Ling, you're back. The Yellow Emperor, Lei Gong, and the others happily welcomed Lin Ling. During this time, did anything happen on the 6th floor of the Dao Pagoda? Lin Ling asked. Although a large number of gods entered the 6th floor of the Dao Pagoda, Overall, everything went smoothly. The Yellow Emperor smiled and said, I guess that most of the top gods are on the 7th floor. However, Senior Ju Chuan told me last time that the grand mist cloud that leads to the 7th floor has appeared at the top of the 18 Dragon Mountains and is slowly flowing down. We are not sure when it will arrive, so we can only wait. We must leave the 6th floor as soon as possible. Lin Ling knew that after Nuwa's failure, she would definitely call for experts to come to the 6th floor. They could not stay on the 6th floor for long. The path from the 6th floor to the 7th floor would take a long time to appear. Therefore, as long as they entered the 7th floor, those experts would not be able to catch up to them in a short time. Tomorrow, we will set off to the place where the grand mist cloud will appear, Lin Ling said solemnly. The Yellow Emperor and the others could see that Lin Ling really wanted to leave immediately. They also guessed the reason and nodded their heads. Moreover, Lin Ling also told them that they would all go to the 7th floor together, so as to avoid any friends who stayed behind and encountered trouble. Everyone was shocked by Lin Ling's suggestion, because no one was sure that the grand mist cloud would be able to take everyone away. Everyone left the 18 Dragon Mountains and called for Ju Chuan. Ju Chuan had been walking around the peak of the 18 Dragon Mountains and was also observing the grand mist cloud. Therefore, he could roughly guess where the grand mist cloud would appear. Lord Lin Ling, I estimate that the grand mist cloud that will teleport you to the 7th floor will appear within 3 days. Moreover, it will only last for a short period of time, about 2 hours before it disappears. Ju Chuan was very polite to Lin Ling, and it could even be said that he was respectful. The main thing was that Lin Ling had penged his real body and was the master they had to serve. Thank you, Senior Ju Chuan. Lin Ling nodded and then looked at everyone present. There were a lot of people. The One Fong race, the Sun God race and so on were all present. This was especially true for the 12-winged Sun God and the others. After all, they had been here for too long. They had always wanted to enter the 7th floor, but they had never been able to find a way to teleport. Chapter 53:30. Everyone had stayed on the 6th floor for far too long. Everyone wanted to enter the 7th floor and explore the ultimate secret of the Tao Pagoda. However, no one knew the path to the 7th floor. If Ju Chuan hadn't announced it, they would probably have to wait aimlessly. Since it's within 3 days, we'll wait here for 3 days. Lin Ling looked at everyone and said, It's only 3 days. We'll wait here. Everyone nodded, their expressions full of excitement. Next, everyone rested on the spot. Looking carefully, there were many people and countless powerhouses. In addition, the people of the Giant God clan also arrived one after another. As new members of the Giant God clan had arrived on the 5th floor, the Giant God clan gods on the 6th floor could also leave. Lord Lin Ling, if you enter the 7th floor, we'll go with you. We'll bring you to the Giant God clan on the 7th floor. They'll definitely help you. Ju Chuan sat down beside Lin Ling and said with a smile. Lin Ling had many enemies now, but the one he had to worry about the most was Nuwa, so he didn't refuse Ju Chuan's help. Thank you for your help, Brother Ju Chuan. You're welcome. Ju Chuan shook his head. Lin Ling had penged his true body and was the master of the Giant God clan in the most ancient era. Brother Ling, we're about to enter the 7th floor, and we're getting closer and closer to the 9th floor. Once we reach the 9th floor, no one in the entire universe can threaten us. At that time, we'll live a peaceful life and ignore everything. Yu looked at Lin Ling and said. After her memories returned, she knew how many ups and downs she had gone through with Lin Ling. Now she yearned for those peaceful days. Yu, I promise you that when the time comes, I'll live a simple life with Grandpa and the others. Lin Ling nodded. He didn't expect that a simple and peaceful life would sometimes be an extravagant hope for him. Time passed quietly, and the first day passed uneventfully. Unfortunately, they didn't see the arrival of the Hongmeng cloud. Early in the morning of the second day, a large number of people appeared. Since everyone is gathered here, could it be that something is going to happen? An extremely beautiful woman asked. Behind her was a familiar face. It was none other than young Master Heaven Hater. Young Master Heaven Hater had come here out of curiosity, but he immediately discovered a familiar face. It was Lin Ling. Soon after, he also noticed Feng Muang. At this moment, Feng Moyang was leaning on Lin Ling, which made him extremely jealous. Heaven-hating young master. The beautiful woman's expression changed. She knew that the heaven-hater young master hated Lin Ling the most. She didn't expect that Lin Ling would also be here. So it's young master Hentian. The Yellow Emperor and the others also recognized young master heaven-hater, and couldn't help but smile. Heaven-hating prince, do you want to know what's going to happen here? Lin Ling looked at young master heaven-hater with a faint smile on his face. Young master heaven-hater clenched his teeth. He was extremely displeased with Lin Ling. If he had the chance, he would definitely defeat Lin Ling and trample Lin Ling under his feet. However, he knew that it was impossible here because the gods here were all Lin Ling's people. I don't want to know, and I'm not interested in knowing. Lin Ling, I know what you mean. You want me to beg you, right? However, you're overthinking it. I, young master heaven-hater, will beg the heavens and the earth, but I will never beg you. I will never compromise with you. Young master heaven-hater said coldly. He was a prideful person and an alien of the universe. He couldn't lower his head and compromise with Lin Ling. To him, this was a humiliation. Up to you. Lin Ling smiled faintly. He didn't expect young master heaven-hater to be so extreme. In fact, if the Hongmeng cloud had appeared and young master heaven-hater wanted to enter, Lin Ling wouldn't have bothered. After all, Lin Ling wasn't the only one who could enter the 7th level. However, he didn't expect young master heaven-hater to be so prideful. He would rather miss the opportunity than lower his head. However, I can tell you that we are here to wait for the path to the 7th level. Lin Ling pondered for a moment and said directly. Young master heaven-hater's expression changed. In fact, he had already guessed this before. After all, the strongest experts of the 6th level were gathered here. Unless there was an absolute treasure, how could it attract them? And a treasure that could move all the experts. Could it be the path to the 7th level? However, he had only guessed at that time. That was why he had sent someone to ask. If the Hongmeng cloud had appeared, you wouldn't have used this opportunity to enter the 7th level? Lin Chen asked with a smile. He wanted to see if this young master heaven-hater was really so prideful. Young master heaven-hater's expression changed slightly. How could he not want to enter the 7th level? However, if he said he wanted to, wouldn't that mean he owed Lin Ling a favor? That would be the same as compromising with Lin Ling and begging for Lin Ling's help. What a joke! Who do you think I am? If I want to enter the 7th level, I don't need anyone to remind me. If I don't enter this time, I will enter again next time. What's the big deal? Young master heaven-hater said proudly. You really have a backbone. However, you have to know that the next appearance of the Hongmeng cloud might take 100 years, 1,000 years, or even 100 million years. Moreover, you can't guarantee that you will be able to wait for the Hongmeng cloud every time. Maybe at some point, the Hongmeng cloud will appear, and you will just brush past it. Lin Ling said with a smile. Young master heaven-hater opened his mouth wide. His previous bold words were undoubtedly shaken. Young master heaven-hater, he's right. The beauties behind young master heaven-hater immediately persuaded him. I thought you had a backbone. Aren't you the same? The Yellow Emperor and the others sneered and looked at young master heaven-hater mockingly. In their opinion, this young master heaven-hater was obviously inferior to Lin Ling, but he refused to admit defeat. He wanted to save face and suffer. Moreover, young master heaven-hater wanted to pursue Feng Moyang, but he didn't know that Feng Moyang was Yu and had many years of feelings for Lin Ling. You guys don't need to say anymore. I won't beg him. Young master heaven-hater suddenly looked at Feng Moyang and angrily shouted. After saying that, he flicked his sleeves and left. Young master. The beauties following him anxiously shouted and then chased after him. They sighed in their hearts. Although Lin Ling had snatched Feng Moyang, he had also said the way to enter the 7th level. Why was young master heaven-hater so arrogant? Now the opportunity had appeared with great difficulty, but he had missed it because of his face. The next time he wanted to enter the 7th level, who knows how many years he would have to wait. This person really wants to save face. Seeing young master heaven-hater disappear, Lin Ling shook his head and smiled. He actually didn't have much hatred for young master heaven-hater. After all, no matter how bright and famous the latter was, he was still below Linling. Moreover, Yu had returned, so young Master Heaven Hater couldn't be considered an enemy. Of course, if young Master Heaven Hater was stubborn and insisted on snatching Yu back, Linling wouldn't be polite to him. And that aura. While thinking, Linling's face suddenly changed. After thinking for a while, his heart finally became serious. He knew that a great enemy had arrived at the 6th level. He's here. Chapter 53:31. Linling could sense the faint aura. The aura was extremely ancient, and it was like a pair of eyes looking at the entire world. Moreover, the Pangu real body in his body was also restless, as if it was being summoned by something. Senior Ju Chuan, how long will it take for the Hongmeng cloud to arrive? Linling asked Ju Chuan immediately. 1 more day. However, I'm not too sure. Anyway, it's either today or tomorrow. It definitely won't be later than tomorrow. Ju Chuan replied. When he saw Linling's grave expression, he quickly asked, "Did something happen?" "There's some trouble." Linling nodded. He was still trying to sense the mysterious aura. When the rest of the people saw Linling's expression, they felt a little worried. With Linling's current strength, he could do whatever he wanted on the 6th level. Moreover, there were so many of them. Linling should not be so serious. Unless his strength was beyond everyone's imagination. Linling did not reply to the rest of the people. He was still trying to sense the aura. Suddenly, he heard a familiar voice. "I know you're here. I've finally found you." The voice was cold and deep, but it made Linling's forehead break out in cold sweat. He could sense that the owner of the voice was even stronger than before. He reckoned that even the strong cultivators in the square prison might not be a match for him. This person was the red-haired man that he had met in the underworld. Back then, Linling had snatched the Pangu real body from him. At that time, he was lucky. However, he knew that the red-haired man had been looking for him. Now, the red-haired man had finally caught up with him. If he fell into the red-haired man's hands, Linling knew that he would not end well. "Everyone, hide your aura." At the thought of this, Linling quickly shouted. "Brother Ling, what's wrong?" Yu asked worriedly when she saw Linling's anxious voice. "A powerful enemy is here. He's looking for me on the 6th level," Linling said solemnly. "Could it be that Mother's men are here?" Yu's expression changed instantly. "No, it's a mysterious expert from the underworld. This person isn't the god of the underworld, nor is he the great god who guards the underworld. He's an unknown ancient god. Even the god of the underworld can't control him," Linling said solemnly. Everyone's expression changed. "Was troublesome. The underworld." Ju Chuan frowned and suddenly guessed. Could it be the disaster taboo? "Who's the underworld?" Linling asked. "I've only heard the legends of calamity from the older generation of the giant god clan. As for where they came from, I'm not too sure. All I know is that this person has an undying body. Even after death, he can be resurrected in the underworld. No one in the 3 realms can control him. It is said that when the universe was first created, he was formed by a cosmic calamity. Even the creator god of the universe was helpless against him." Ju Chuan said solemnly, "I don't know if the red-haired man you mentioned is Huaji or not, but if you're talking about the underworld's unusual creatures, Huaji is definitely one of them." Immortal body. Is there really such a god? The Yellow Emperor could not help but ask. In fact, he already knew the answer. To mortals, these gods were immortal and indestructible, but that was only relative. The hell of mortals couldn't control their life and death, but the underworld could. Moreover, the underworld didn't imprison the souls of mortals, so mortals didn't know about it. Since the underworld was not afraid of the underworld, it was clear that the underworld was powerful. During the great calamity of the world's will, the divine altar had collapsed and the immortals had fallen. Who could escape the curse of immortality? Even the great gods of the universe would not dare to say that they were immortal. Even the legendary creator of the universe could fall. Otherwise, how could the worlds will sweep through the universe? Immortality does exist, but we don't know if the red-haired man is the underworld god. Ju Chuan sighed. "Let's do as the Lord says. Hide your auras as much as possible. Don't let the red-haired man discover you." Hearing this, everyone nodded and completely concealed their auras. Fortunately, The 6th level was very big, especially for gods who had just come to the 6th level. It was impossible to explore the entire 6th level in a short time. This bought Lin Ling and the others some time. I hope the Hongming cloud will come soon. Lin Ling muttered to himself. He held Yu Yu's hand and sat down cross-legged. Yu Yu could sense that Lin Ling's palms were sweaty. She had not seen Lin Ling so nervous in a long time. Even when he was fighting against Niwa, Lin Ling had not shown such an attitude. On the other side, a large number of demons were moving forward. They were following a red-haired man. This man was very thin and weak. His red hair was like a sea urchin. There were many strange green tattoos on his body. These tattoos had the symbol of a sun as the center, and extended in all directions like tree roots. Master, have you found him? A 5-meter-tall demon with a crocodile head asked in a low voice. I'm sure he's on this level. He's also found me and is hiding now. The red-haired man licked his lips and smiled evilly. Ever since this person stole my Panga's real body, I was forced out of the netherworld and had to travel all over the world. But in the end I found you here. This time don't even think about escaping. Master, after so many years, we've finally found him. The other demons cheered and continued to move forward to search for Lin Ling. They were very fast and spread across the 6th level like a plague. All the gods they met along the way were intimidated by their aura and fled far away. The slower ones were killed immediately. Master, I found him. He's over there. After an unknown period of time, a slippery, earthworm-like fiendish demon rushed out from the ground. This group of demons was indeed terrifyingly powerful. The 6th level was so big, but they could still find Lin Ling in such a short time. Have you found him? The red-haired man stuck out his tongue and let out a strange, androgynous voice. He led the group of demons in the direction of Lin Ling. At this moment, Lin Ling and the others had been waiting for an entire night. But early the next morning, large amounts of Hongmeng clouds finally arrived on the mountain. Everyone was overjoyed. Hurry! Lin Ling looked at the Hongmeng clouds rolling down the dragon mountain like fog and shouted in his heart. But at this moment his expression changed. The Panga's real body had obviously sensed something. Oh no, the red-haired man is here. This shout made everyone panic. Ju Chuan hurriedly said, Let's go. We'll go to the Hongmeng clouds. Let's hope we're not too late. Lin Ling nodded and led the group in the direction of the Hongmeng clouds. But just as they reached the Hongmeng clouds, the demonic aura in front of them shot up into the sky. The aura was terrifying. Lin Ling's eyes narrowed. He could sense that this aura was very familiar. It was the group of demons from the underworld back then. Then he looked around and indeed he saw a familiar figure among the demons. The red-haired man. At the same time, the red-haired man saw Lin Ling and laughed heartily. However, he had just arrived at the 6th level and didn't seem to know the use of the Hongmeng clouds. Chapter 53:32. Ha 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 kid, I finally found you. The red-haired man laughed loudly, calling for all the demons to stop in their tracks. The battle formation on his side was extremely terrifying. Demons of all sizes gathered together, waving their arms in the air. Their aura was monstrous. They were very strong, like the most ancient group of demons in the world. Even though they were far away, the Yellow Emperor and the others still felt a sense of fear. Where did these demons come from? Lei Gong said solemnly. He had lived for several centuries and had seen all kinds of demons. Sometimes, demons were just ants to him. However, this was the first time he had seen such ancient demons. They came from the underworld. However, they don't seem to have discovered the Hongmeng cloud. Let's stall for time as much as possible. Lin Ling secretly reminded everyone. He was not surprised by the strength of these demons. After all, when he had explored the underworld, he knew that these demons came from the bottom of the underworld. Everyone nodded. This red-haired man probably hadn't been in the Dao Pagoda for long, and was unfamiliar with many things. Naturally, he didn't know about the Hongmeng cloud. Kid, where's my thing? The red-haired man shouted again. He was also secretly probing for Lin Ling's aura. Strangely, when he had just arrived on the 6th floor, he could still sense Panga's true body. Now the feeling was very weak. Senior, Panga's true body is still with me. However, don't act recklessly. Otherwise, I will destroy Penga's true body. Lin Ling revealed a panicked expression. Then destroy it. Destroy it for me to see. The red-haired man laughed disdainfully. He knew that Penga's true body would not be destroyed so easily. However, he could also see that Lin Ling was clearly panicking. Even though Lin Ling had many experts on his side, the red-haired man knew that these experts were still not enough to deal with him. Senior, don't you want to know what star level Penga's true body is at? Lin Ling stole a glance at the Hongmeng cloud. Seeing that it was getting closer and closer, he could only continue to stall for time. Could it be that you've improved Penga's true body? Sure enough, when he mentioned Pengu, the red-haired man's eyes lit up and his face was filled with curiosity. He knew that if he wanted to upgrade Penga's true body, the treasures required would definitely be special. Ordinary treasures would not be able to do so. Of course, in addition to this, he was also very curious about the mystique Lin Ling cultivated. After all, in the past, he had tried to refine Penga's true body for many years, but he still hadn't succeeded. However, that brat had managed to do it the moment he came and successfully obtained Penga's true body. This meant that the brat cultivated a mystique. It was definitely left behind by the Pengu clan. Right now, Penga's true body is at the level of 8 stars. Lin Ling said indifferently. The red-haired man's face lit up with excitement. Senior, if you want to obtain the 8-star Penga's true body, it probably won't be easy. Lin Ling said again. Hehe, how about this? If you tell me the mystique you cultivate, I can spare your life. The red-haired man stated his purpose. It was indeed difficult for him to refine the 8-star Penga's true body. He definitely needed the corresponding cultivation technique of the Pengu clan. I cultivate the Pengu attack. After cultivating it to the extreme, I can temporarily transform into Penga's true body. It's because of this that I refined Penga's true body. Lin Ling nodded and continued to tempt the red-haired man. However, I've already upgraded Penga's true body to the level of 8 stars. If I let you take it back just like that, I feel like I'm still at a disadvantage. Are you bargaining with me? The red-haired man narrowed his eyes. I wouldn't dare. It's just that I've handed over the Pengu clan's mystique, and handed over the Penga's true body to you. I should more or less get something in return. Lin Ling hurriedly smiled and said, Senior, you're an ancient ruler. You won't be so stingy. Don't haggle with me. No one has ever stolen a treasure from me. You're the first. With this crime, I can kill you 1,000 times over. You still want the treasure? The red-haired man snorted. When the crowd saw Lin Ling haggling like this, they secretly wiped the sweat off Lin Ling's forehead. If he angered that mysterious expert and the other party came to kill them, they would not be able to stop him, especially when the Hongmeng cloud was right in front of them. Couldn't Lin Ling say something nice to stall for time? Senior, it's not easy for me either. If you're not willing to do anything, then I'll give up my life and die with the mystique. Lin Ling gritted his teeth as if he was going to throw caution to the wind. He knew that this red-haired man wasn't stupid. If he went along with everything, the other party would become suspicious and haggle instead. This would give people a more realistic feeling. Moreover, haggling was perfect for stalling for time. And the truth was indeed so. The red-haired man was actually a bit suspicious. Lin Ling and such a large group of people were gathered there, but they didn't run or fight. They just stood there. This was too strange. After all, Lin Ling alone knew that he couldn't run, but why didn't the others run? This matter had nothing to do with them. However, Lin Ling's mystique and the 8-star Pengu true body had indeed moved the red-haired man's heart. Fine, I'll give you a cosmic core. It can raise your cultivation by 2 major realms. The red-haired man pondered for a moment and nodded. However, you must hand over the Pengu race's mystique. Hearing this, the Yellow Emperor and the others were secretly shocked. They didn't expect Lin Ling to have made the right bet. This red-haired man didn't attack. Cosmic core. Lin Ling's eyes lit up. He pretended to be excited and rubbed his hands. Senior, can you give it to me now? Kid, don't you know the rules? The red-haired man frowned. Wasn't this kind of transaction a one-time transaction? I'm afraid that you'll kill me if I tell you the mystique. Why don't you give me the cosmic core now? I'll memorize the mystique and put it on the ground. Then I'll leave immediately, Lin Ling said with a smile, showing that he was very afraid of the red-haired man. However, he wasn't wrong in thinking this way. One had to be careful when dealing with experts. Anyone would be like this. Okay. The red-haired man pondered for a moment and nodded. He didn't plan to trade with Lin Ling at all. As long as he got the mystique, Lin Ling would be dead for sure. In this place, Lin Ling wouldn't be able to escape no matter how powerful his mystique was. Moreover, he was afraid that if he forced Lin Ling to commit suicide, he would lose more than he gained. After all, he could kill Lin Ling and seize the panga's true body, but he wouldn't get the mystique. A star-like stone appeared in his hand. The red-haired man admired it for a while, and then reluctantly pushed the treasure to Lin Ling. Lin Ling's eyes narrowed. He was just stalling for time. He didn't expect to get such a pleasant surprise. There was no reason to reject a gift from someone else. He suppressed his excitement and waited for the stone to float over. Then he picked it up and looked at it carefully. This stone was about the size of a thumb, and was as bright as a star. Although it wasn't big, there was a strong power suppressed inside. It was as if he was holding the universe. Chapter 53:33. The heart of the universe is formed from an immature universe when the universe was first created. This is a universe created by heaven and earth, not a universe cultivated by gods. Its power is beyond your imagination, the red-haired man said proudly. He stared at the heart of the universe in Lin Ling's hand with reluctance in his eyes. He had obtained this heart of the universe after 3,000 years of waiting in the netherworld. How could he give it away so easily? Although he was giving it to Lin Ling so generously, in his opinion, it was just for Lin Ling to play with. The heart of the universe. The Yellow Emperor and the others looked envious. This was the first time they had heard of such a treasure. However, this thing was formed from an immature universe. This was enough to show how precious the heart of the universe was. Now, the Panga strike should be passed to me, the red-haired man said indifferently. Lin Ling excitedly put away the heart of the universe, then took out a spirit stone and slowly chanted in his heart. Only then did he throw the engraved Panga strike to the red-haired man. Of course, when he chanted, he deliberately slowed down a lot. He could already see the Hong Meng cloud around them. After the red-haired man received it, he gave it a rough look. Seeing that it was indeed a mystical cultivation technique, he finally relaxed. It's time to hand over the Panga's true body, the red-haired man said again. This time, he didn't hide his ambition and revealed his killing intent. The best way to get the Panga's true body is to kill you. You want to kill me? Lin Ling looked in front of him, and saw that the Hong Meng cloud was less than 10 meters away. It would probably bring them to the 7th level soon. Of course. Didn't you say that you would give me the Panga clan's cultivation technique, and the Panga's true body? You've already given me the cultivation technique, but you haven't given me the Panga's true body, so I must kill you. The red-haired man laughed loudly, causing the surrounding demons to laugh as well. They seemed to be mocking Lin Ling's ignorance for daring to make a deal with an almighty like the red-haired man. Are you going to say that I lied to you? You entered the netherworld and stole my Panga's true body. I haven't settled that debt with you yet. Killing you and obtaining your cultivation technique are just interest. The red-haired man's laughter became louder and louder. When he thought about how Yi Han had stolen Panga's true body, he was extremely unhappy. But now, this unhappiness had completely dissipated. Ha ha ha. However, the red-haired man, Lin Yellow Emperor and the others. Calm. And the other people. As expected, the red-haired man's face sank. He didn't like being interrupted when he was doing something, and he didn't like being mocked even more. The red-haired man said in a low voice. Lin Ling shook his head and laughed. Sorry, what I gave you is actually a fake cultivation technique. If you cultivate it, don't talk about Panga's true body. You might even self-destruct. You dare lie to me? The red-haired man took out the spirit stone and studied it carefully. He cultivated the beginning and immediately felt that something was wrong. He angrily smashed the spirit stone. You're not lying to me too, Lin Ling retorted. The red-haired man's expression changed. Finally, he revealed a ferocious expression. Forget it. I'll kill you. I have my own ways to obtain your cultivation technique. It's just that this path is a bit risky. But you force me. Sorry, it's a bit late to kill me now. Lin Ling still smiled calmly. He could feel his body beginning to disintegrate. This was a sign of going to the next level. However, the red-haired man and the others were not familiar with the Dao Pagoda. They still hadn't reacted. They looked at each other and laughed again. Too late. With the red-haired man's strength, how could it be too late to kill these people? The red-haired man wanted to say something, but his expression changed instantly. In his eyes, Lin Ling's body began to disperse, turning into golden powder. It wasn't just Lin Ling. The densely packed people around him were the same. Then, they all dissipated into the mist. My lord, look. All the fiendish demons started yelling when they saw this scene. They all saw that Lin Ling and the others had disappeared. Moreover, there was a large amount of mist around Lin Ling and the others. In fact, they had seen this mist a long time ago. However, they came from the underworld and were fearless. Naturally, they didn't care about the mist. But they didn't expect that the mist would take Lin Ling and the others and disappear. Where do you think you're going? The red-haired man shouted angrily. A large amount of red clouds shot out from his body and quickly drowned Lin Ling. But it was too late. The red-haired man didn't sense anything. It was as if Lin Ling and the others had never appeared. Their auras had vanished. What's going on? The red-haired man was also stunned. At this moment, he also saw several figures rushing into the mist and gradually disappearing. If Lin Ling and the others were still here, they would definitely realize that these people were young Master Heaven Hater. While Lin Ling and the others were leaving, they had also rushed into the 7th level. Although this was like following Lin Ling's footsteps, it was extremely embarrassing. But at this time, they had to do it no matter how embarrassing it was. When he felt his body disintegrate and was about to dissipate with the wind, young Master Heaven Hater finally relaxed. He suddenly looked at the red-haired man and said, "Sir, you have been tricked. This is the Hongming Cloud. It can bring people into the 7th level. Lin Ling and the others have gone to the 7th level. Moreover, the Hongming Cloud at the 6th level has already disappeared. You can't catch up to them." After he said this, young Master Heaven Hater and the others also disappeared. The red-haired man was still in a daze, but he heard young Master Heaven Hater's words clearly. Lin Ling and the others had left. They had gone to the 7th level. In other words, Lin Ling and the others had been quietly waiting there. It wasn't that they had nowhere to run, but that they had been waiting for the Hongming Cloud. No wonder Lin Ling had spoken so much nonsense before. It turned out that he had been stalling for time. You dare to trick me? After thinking it through, the red-haired man roared. Then he was stunned. His eyes darted around as he thought of a key point. His cosmic exquisite heart. I will kill you. Now, the red-haired man finally realized that he had suffered a great loss. On the other side, endless golden dust drifted in the void. It gradually condensed, turning into figures. Lin Ling opened his eyes. This feeling of being transmitted through the Dao Pagoda was still marvelous to him. As he opened his eyes, everything appeared in front of him. What shocked Lin Ling was that the 7th level was completely different from what he had seen before. This place was like an immortal paradise. The blue sky and white clouds, the high mountains and flowing water, the chirping of birds and the fragrance of flowers. All of this proved that this place was not like the crueler 7th level. One had to know that the Dao Pagoda had 9 levels. So far, no one had reached the 9th level. Therefore, the 7th level was the penultimate level. All kinds of great gods in the universe were gathered there, and the competition was extremely fierce. Therefore, shouldn't the 7th level be filled with billowing smoke and darkness? Chapter 53-34. Everyone stood on the ground and looked around in disbelief. The 7th floor was quiet and serene, unlike the second half of the Dao Pagoda, where competition was fierce. Everyone disperse. Lin Ling shouted to the crowd. With such a large group of people gathered, it was easy to become the focus of attention, especially when they were not clear about the situation on the 7th floor. It was better to be careful. In Lin Ling's opinion, the 7th floor was definitely filled with countless powerhouses. There were the 9 great stars of the universe, the host body of the world's will, the 3 great god gates of White Mountain, the 12 god races, and so on. Moreover, many powerhouses had come from the primal chaos boundary. The 8 great god generations definitely had their own orthodoxies here. In such a world filled with powerhouses, it was better to keep a low profile at the beginning. Lord Linling, we'll leave first. If there's anything, we can contact each other through the sound transmission talisman. Lord Linling, we'll take our leave. The crowd dispersed one after another, forming a small group of a dozen people. Linling brought along Yu, Lei Gong, Qingzhu, elder brother Zhu Chuan, and the others. The 7th floor is very, very big, and there should be many powerhouses gathered here. But why didn't they go to the 8th floor? There must be some secret behind this. Elder brother Zhu Chuan said. If it's the 8th floor, it should be the battlefield of the various rulers, and the 7th floor is the battlefield of the strongest powerhouses below the rulers. It's just that we don't know what kind of strength the powerhouses here have. Linling nodded. Although he was an initial stage universe giant god, his combat power was so strong that he was not afraid of late-stage universe giant gods. Especially if he used the square prison. He estimated that he could fight against rulers. But Linling still knew that with his strength, he could only be considered average on the 7th floor. Big Brother Ling, it seems very quiet here. Yu looked around. Although the surroundings were not as cruel as she had imagined, this tranquility gave people a strange feeling. Xiao. Suddenly, a meteor streaked across the sky. Even under the blue sky, this ray of light was still dazzling. Hong. The meteor smashed into the ground, causing the earth to tremble. Originally, Linling had wanted to follow Zhu Chuan to search for the giant god tribe, but he was frightened by the sudden arrival of this meteor. They could all sense that this meteor was clearly not ordinary. The speed at which it fell carried with it the power of the universe. Let's go take a look. Lei Gong suggested. Everyone's interest was also piqued. Thinking that there were so many people here, even if an accident happened, they probably wouldn't be able to handle it. After that, everyone flew toward the place where the meteor had landed. After a while, they stood on a hill and looked down at the front. They saw a huge hole in the ground where the meteor had exploded. A large amount of dense fog filled the hole. When they looked carefully, they saw a strange jade rui lying in the big hole. This jade scepter was about as thick as an adult's arm, and it emitted a mysterious aura. It seemed like the aura of the universe, but it also seemed like the power of the gods. From the looks of it, this treasure seems to be a divine artifact. Furthermore, it's a mid-level divine artifact. Zhu Chuan shouted in shock after sensing it for a moment. Linling and the others immediately revealed strange expressions. They should have just arrived at the 7th level, and then encountered a rare divine artifact. One had to know that divine artifacts were extremely rare. Among them, only Linling had the Quafu Sunchaser boots and Shangui Yi's Donghuang Bell. Of course, these 2 divine artifacts were both chaotic grade, and were of a higher grade than divine artifacts. Hee, looks like our luck is pretty good. Taoist master of many treasures had controlled a large number of treasures in the past. Now that he saw a divine artifact, he couldn't help but be moved. He floated over, wanting to bring out the jade scepter. However, when his power of the gods landed on the jade scepter, it was like a stone sinking into the sea. It didn't move at all. What's going on? Does this divine artifact already have an artifact spirit? Taoist master of many treasures frowned. Generally speaking, most divine artifacts had artifact spirits, but there were also differences in strength. Individual artifact spirits could devour their masters, and were extremely powerful. Of course, most divine artifacts only had ordinary spirituality and weren't very terrifying. However, the jade scepter in front of them was somewhat different. It could resist and was obviously extraordinary. Taoist master of many treasures, be careful. Linling couldn't help but remind him. Don't worry. Taoist master of many treasures had played with treasures his entire life, so how could he let them ride on his head? He activated the world will, and formed a ray of light that enveloped the jade scepter. Taoist master of many treasures world will had just stepped into the immemorial grade, and it was the power of devouring. One had to know that the world will's 3 grades were the universe grade and the immemorial grade. It was already very powerful to be able to reach the immemorial grade. After all, Even Linling's world will was only at the immemorial grade, so it was naturally stronger than Taoist Master of Many Treasures. A gourd appeared in Taoist Master of Many Treasures' hand, and swallowed the jade scepter. As long as he swallowed it, Taoist Master of Many Treasures was confident that he could control it. Above the hole, the jade scepter began to sway, but it didn't absorb Taoist Master of Many Treasures' world will. Boom. Suddenly, an explosion resounded, and a dazzling light bloomed. A powerful impact sent Taoist Master of Many Treasures flying. Taoist Master of Many Treasures. Everyone shouted in unison. Taoist Master of Many Treasures flew back in a sorry state and said solemnly, "Something's wrong. This jade scepter seems to be a person. Why can't I control it?" Everyone felt that it was very strange, and then they stared in front of them. They saw the light gradually converging, and then a figure soared into the sky with an extremely fierce aura. It was a pure white eagle that was as huge as a mountain. Its sharp claws were aimed at Taoist Master of Many Treasures, and with a sweep of its wings, a gale exploded. The most unbelievable thing was that the eagle's eyes were coldly staring at everyone, giving them a crazy and bloodthirsty feeling. What's going on? Everyone's expression changed greatly. They were all gods who had seen a lot of things, so they weren't surprised by the eagle. What shocked them was that the jade scepter, which was clearly a divine artifact, had suddenly turned into a demonic beast. "This is a divine beast," Zhu Chuan suddenly said solemnly. "Moreover, this divine beast has already heard the great Tao." "Senior Zhu Chuan, what is hearing the great Tao?" Yu immediately asked. Hearing the great Tao means that this divine artifact once heard the great God of the universe talk about the great Tao of the universe, and it comprehended its own Tao, which is why it can transform into a spirit. Taoist Master of Many Treasures knew some things. In that case, it is no longer a divine artifact, but a divine beast, and it is very likely that it will transform into a human in the future. Yu finally reacted. "Everyone be careful." At this time, Lei Gong suddenly shouted. The white feathered eagle in the sky let out a fierce cry and swept down with a fierce gale. Although this eagle was formed by the jade scepter, its strength wasn't weak, and its sharp claws contained a large amount of divine power, which could ignore a large number of attacks. Dodge. Originally, Lei Gong and the others still wanted to attack, but they sensed the eagle's strength and dodged. Bang! The eagle swept across the sky, forming a gale that was like a cosmic hurricane, causing Lei Gong and the others to be smashed into the distance in a sorry state. However, Lei Gong and the others were existences who had experienced hundreds of battles, and just as they stabilized themselves, they used powerful techniques to counterattack. Chapter 53-35. Rumble. Innumerable divine power transformed into a powerful attack that attacked the white eagle in the sky. The eagle let out a deafening screech, and Yuera and the rest were weaker and were immediately affected. They quickly used their divine energy to protect themselves. Boom. Boom. The eagle was like an island as it flew over their heads. Its speed was so fast that it made them feel like a gust of wind was blowing past them. When the divine energy landed on the eagle, it only managed to knock off a large number of feathers, and didn't cause much damage to the eagle. "This strange thing is really powerful," Lei Gong said solemnly. "This eagle is transformed from a jade scepter, and is already a divine beast. Moreover, it has the ability to absorb the power of divinity. Unless the power of divinity far surpasses it, the power of divinity's attacks will only become stronger and stronger. I personally suggest that we use another type of attack." Qing Zhu was from the Chaos Realm, and had seen many things. However, her expression was somewhat solemn. After all, there were also such divine artifacts in the Chaotic Realm, but they were very rare. However, once there was a divine artifact in the Chaotic Realm, there would definitely be a calamity on that side. "Let me do it." Saint Guyi floated up and controlled the Donghuang Bell. He then used the opportunity when the eagle was flying over to suppress it. Boom. As expected, Saint Guyi's Donghuang Bell was very effective. It smashed the eagle to the ground like a mountain. The Donghuang Bell was a chaos divine artifact, so it was naturally of a higher grade than the Jade Rui. Yaya! The eagle that was pressed down on the ground continued to struggle, letting out a sharp cry that was deafening to the ears. However, it gradually calmed down and eventually, the screech disappeared. Saint Guy recalled the Donghuang bell, and saw that the ferocious eagle was nowhere to be seen. All that was left was a broken jade rui. This jade rui is probably useless now. Even if it was repaired, the materials needed would be extremely rare. Qingzhu walked over and checked the jade rui. Why did the jade rui turn into a divine beast all of a sudden? Lei Gong frowned. He felt that the 7th floor was very strange. Could it be that all the divine artifacts on the 7th floor will turn into divine beasts? Longyang guessed. Everyone's expression changed slightly. If that was the case, then the 7th floor would be terrifying. After all, this was the 7th floor. There would definitely be a lot of divine weapons. If they all transformed into such terrifying divine beasts, then this floor would definitely be much more dangerous than the 6th floor. Everything will be clear once we find the god of the 7th floor. Lin Ling suggested. Everyone nodded and continued forward. Sure enough, not long after, they encountered another divine artifact that had transformed into a divine beast. This time, the divine artifact was an ancient cauldron. The cauldron had transformed into a huge divine turtle. This divine turtle was obviously much stronger than the eagle from before. Even if everyone worked together, they couldn't gain an advantage over it. In the end, Lin Ling had to unleash the power of his physical body to kill the divine turtle. After 2 battles, Lin Ling and the others also knew that this kind of god beast was not afraid of the power of God. Unless the power of God could surpass the god beast by a lot, not only would it not be able to kill it, it would also make the god beast grow stronger day by day. The best way was to use the divine artifact to fight it. The second best was to use other powers, such as the power of the physical body or the power of the world's will. Damn, it's just a beast. It actually wants us to use the power of the world's will. Lei Gong and the others were extremely unhappy. The power of the world's will was their trump card, but they had to use it against a small monster. This was too degrading. This is nothing. What's worrying is how many of these divine beasts there are on the 7th floor. If the entire 7th floor is filled with them, then we'll be in trouble. Lin Ling frowned and reminded them solemnly. Everyone's expression changed. If they encountered a single divine beast, they could easily kill it if they worked together. But what if there were a large number of them? Just thinking about it was terrifying. Junior brother, immediately find the god of the 7th floor and ask them to find out. Qingzhu reminded. The gods of the giant god clan on the 7th floor are mostly gathered in a place called Moon Creek Floating Island. Zhu Chuan looked at Lin Ling and said. He knew that everyone's top priority was to find the giant god clan. And the giant god clan had always been mysterious. Even on the 6th floor, they were an extremely mysterious existence, let alone on the 7th floor. Let's find a place with people first. Lin Ling suggested. As soon as he arrived, he used his soul power to investigate. However, he discovered that the 7th floor was vast and boundless. His soul power, which could envelop the entire universe, could not sense the end of it. Fate. Therefore, in this situation, finding people was the most important. Everyone quickened their pace and advanced along the fairyland-like 7th floor. Rumble. At this time, another earth-shattering aura appeared in the distance. Then they saw a divine beast that was thousands of miles tall and looked like an island slowly advancing. This divine beast's origin could not be discerned at all. One could only see that its body was like an island, but its limbs were like that of a giant elephant. Every step it took shook the world. As for its head and other parts, they were hidden in the clouds, so they could not be seen at all. What kind of divine beast is this? It's too big. Everyone was shocked. They could even see that there were a large number of divine beasts living on that island-like body. Let's go around it. Lin Ling led the group and took a detour. No one knew how strong those demonic beasts from before were. If they were to clash, it would be extremely disadvantageous for Lin Ling's group. After advancing for a long time, Lin Ling's group encountered several waves of divine beasts. But this time, they did not want to waste time, so they stealthily avoided them. Sir, wait. Not long after, they finally met several gods. On the surface, these gods did not seem to be members of the deity race. Instead, they seemed to be loose cultivators. We are gods who have just arrived on the 7th floor. We would like to ask what happened here, and why there are so many divine beasts. Green Bamboo represented Linling's group to ask the questions. Her attitude was extremely polite. And these gods were all at the late-stage cosmos giant god level. They looked at Linling's group strangely, because they could see that Linling's group did not even have the strength of a late-stage cosmos giant god. With such strength, they were not qualified to come to the 7th floor. Of course, there was another possibility, and that was that these people had some background. The 7th floor is also known as the floor of the gods. Here, not only are there gods from the various superpowers of the universe, there are also countless divine beasts. These divine beasts are transformed from deity weapons. And these deity weapons have an ancient origin. According to legend, they have existed since the beginning of the universe. After hearing the great Tao, they transformed into divine beasts and went against us gods. You guys are considered lucky that you did not encounter any powerful divine beasts. Otherwise, you guys would have been completely annihilated. Sweeping a glance at Linling's group, these gods said, "If you want to survive, it's best to go to places with holy light. Those places are places where divine beasts do not dare to approach. They are also places where gods gather. If you want to know something, it'll be easy to pursue it there." Thank you, everyone. Green Bamboo hurriedly expressed her gratitude. No need to thank us. The direction is south from here. It's just that this road is bumpy. Whether you can reach there will depend on your luck. The leading god with a fluttering white beard said. Linling's group bade farewell, and then headed south. After the god's reminder, they finally understood how terrifying the floor of the gods was. Chapter 53:36. They didn't encounter any danger along the way. Not long after, light shot into the sky ahead. It was extremely dazzling. Before they even got close, everyone felt very comfortable. The light was like the sun, giving them a warm feeling. Lord Linling, that should be Holy Light City. Zhu Chuan was delighted as he hurriedly said to Linling. He hoped to meet people from the Giant God clan in Holy Light City. Moreover, the Giant God clan members that appeared on the 7th level were all at the level of a great leader. They were also sovereigns. If they could meet them, it would mean that they had returned to the Giant God clan's main camp. Everyone, let's speed up. Linling nodded with a smile. They could rest after entering Holy Light City. After all, they had been hurrying along ever since they came to the 7th level, and hadn't rested at all. It's best if we can buy a map of the 7th level. Lei Gong also smiled. Everyone quickened their pace and rushed toward Holy Light City. Then they discovered that this so-called Holy Light City was under a divine mountain. The divine mountain emitted a gentle light that formed a holy light that blocked the approach of divine beasts. Moreover, Lin Chen and the others saw with their own eyes a divine beast approaching the divine mountain. However, after being illuminated by the holy light, it actually turned into a divine weapon and was beaten back to its original form. This shocked Linling and the others. If they could control the holy light, then they wouldn't have to fear those divine beasts on the 7th level. Of course, this was just wishful thinking. If the holy light was so easy to obtain, why would the gods here need to hide in Holy Light City? Holy Light City didn't have walls. A large number of gods approached from all directions, and then entered. Although divine beasts are everywhere on the 7th level, and there's even a terrifying divine beast tide, if there's a way to kill 1 or 2 divine beasts, the harvest is still pretty good. The one on the altar, from what you've said, you should have gotten a pretty good divine weapon, right? Haha, I did, but it's a pity that it's a little damaged. The gods of the path were whispering to each other. It seemed that if one was strong enough on the 7th level, they could still get a pretty good harvest, and use it to become stronger. This was probably also a characteristic of the 7th level. However, the divine beast tide still shocked Linling and the others. If they were to encounter a divine beast tide, they would probably die here. With a heavy heart, Linling and the rest entered Holy Light City. Soon after, they realized that this divine city was not much different from an ordinary city. There were restaurants, markets, and many other things. There were even a large number of cultivation grounds. It seemed that even gods were transformed from humans, and there were humans as well. Moreover, the city was peaceful, which made Linling and the others feel a lot more at ease. Let's look for a map or something first. The Pantheon has been in the 7th level for so long. They should have explored most of it by now. Lin Ling suggested. Then he had everyone split up to search. Not long after, someone was selling maps in a place that specialized in selling treasures. Lin Ling and the others hurried over. After asking around, they found out that the 7th level was very, very big. There was a map on the surface, and there were also secret maps. The maps on the surface were known to everyone, but the secret maps had to be explored by humans. Generally speaking, those who had secret maps would not easily hand over their maps to others. Even if the other party wanted it, they would have to exchange it with something. It should be your first time coming to the 7th level, right? At the stall, a bearded man with a late-stage deity realm cosmos giant god laughed. He could see that there were many middle-stage deity realm cosmos giant gods in Lin Ling's group. This kind of strength was rare on the 7th level. That's right. Your Excellency's map. How much are you selling it for? Lin Ling smiled faintly. Even though his background had been seen through, he was not afraid. After all, he could not act recklessly in Holy Light City. Secondly, although this group of people had low realms, each of them was in existence that could fight against 100. It was not difficult for them to fight against a late-stage deity realm cosmos giant god. Seeing that you are interested in buying, I'll give you a reminder. First, go to the market and buy a clear map. Buy a few more as backup. Then buy a secret map. This way, you won't be wasting your money. That bearded man was easy to talk to. It was rare for Lin Chen to meet such an enthusiastic person. He could not help but ask a few more questions. It seems that the map is the most important thing on the 7th level. I wonder why everyone is chasing after a map. If you want cultivation treasures, you can find them in the Dao Requital Celestial Tablet. Even though they are a little expensive, they are still useful. If you want cheap treasures, you can go to the market in Holy Light City to kill deity beasts. At that time you can have whatever you want. But if you want to go from the 7th level to the 8th level, it won't be easy. The bearded man laughed. You are saying that the path to the 8th level is very secretive and hidden in some corner of the 7th level. Only after collecting all the maps of the 7th level will we know the path to the 8th level? Lin Ling's eyes brightened. That's right. The bearded man nodded. According to legend, no more than 100 people have reached the 8th level from the 7th level, and they are all existences of the ancient juggernaut. For example, the strongest leaders of the 12 divine clans, the leader of the 8 great gods of the primal chaos realm, and the powerhouses left on the 7th level are all the strongest under the juggernaut, but they still have not found the key. This shows how difficult it is to reach the 8th level. Thank you for the reminder. Lin Ling and the others suddenly understood. After all, everyone who rushed into the Dao Tower was rushing to the top of the Dao Tower. They wanted to become a god that controlled the entire universe. Therefore, maps were extremely important. Right. Have you seen anyone from the Giant God clan here? Ju Chuan hurriedly asked. Sorry, the Giant God clan has always been mysterious. They are as mysterious as the Divine Ox clan, and the universe's #1 Toad clan, so I have never seen them. However, I am certain that they are on the 7th level, just hidden somewhere. After all, the 7th level is far too big. The bearded man shook his head. Then I wonder what you want. Lin Ling was secretly regretful that he did not get the information he wanted, but he still smiled. What treasures do you have? The bearded man asked. Lin Ling and the others immediately took out the treasures they did not want, and let the bearded man choose. I want this. If you agree, I will give you my dark map. The bearded man stared at a mushroom on Longyang's body and suddenly smiled. This was the Empress Dowager mushroom that Longyang had obtained on the 5th level. It was absolutely helpful to certain gods, but it was useless to Longyang, so she had kept it all this time. Okay. Longyang nodded at once. They exchanged the money and the goods. Next, everyone went to buy the bright maps. Each of them bought 3 copies, and then they overlapped the bearded man's dark map with one of the bright maps. A certain area on the map that was dark suddenly lit up. With the power of God, they could see the mountains, rivers, and other things in that area. It's only such a small area. Lei Gong saw that most of the map was dark and could not help but feel helpless. Who knew how long it would take to explore the entire map? Previously, that god said that apart from the leaders of the major god clans, the second person is on the 7th level. This means that we have many acquaintances on the 7th level, such as the great god of Spirit Nation and Ning Qingxin. Lin Ling suddenly said with some anticipation. Chapter 53:37. That's right, there's also big sister Qingxin. Yu also smiled. She had also thought of Ning Qingxin. And Yue also smiled. Besides, the 12-winged young god and the others should have found their own god clan. They've been here for so long, so you can ask them if there's anything you don't understand. Everyone nodded. Lin Ling recalled that he had just arrived at Holy Light City, so he decided to rest here for the time being. He led everyone around Holy Light City, wanting to familiarize himself with the 7th level. On the 7th level, other than obtaining the map, we also have to face the divine beasts transformed from divine weapons. There are strong and weak divine beasts, and the powerful ones have the strength of a divine universe giant god. If we encounter them, we'll have a slim chance of survival. So the 7th level is the hardest to traverse. It had to be said that Holy Light City had indeed obtained good information. Apart from the map and the divine beasts, Lin Ling also knew that the god clan on the 7th level was extremely crazy. They often fought in order to enrich their maps. After all, the various god clans and major forces were spread out in every corner of the 7th level. Unless the other party traded maps with them, they wouldn't allow others to easily walk through their territory and explore the depths. This was also the reason why it was difficult to complete the maps. Lin Ling, the gods gathered on the 7th level are all extremely powerful. It seems that we have to make long-term plans here. Lei Gong whispered to Lin Ling. Lin Ling nodded. Let's find a restaurant to rest first. After a while, Lin Ling and the others were sitting in a restaurant. Zhu Chuan looked regretful as he drank and said, "It's a pity that we can't find the giant god clan. Otherwise, we'd have a place to stay now." "Senior Zhu Chuan, don't worry. We'll find them sooner or later." Yu comforted him. While they were resting, a white-haired man at one of the tables in the restaurant glanced indifferently at Lin Ling and the others, then suddenly left. After walking out of the restaurant, a fly appeared in the man's hand, and he flipped the fly. Lin Ling has come to the 7th floor. Decaying gods, surround and kill him. However, even after Lin Ling and the others had eaten their fill, they still did not leave St. Light City, causing the white-haired man to become somewhat anxious. Decaying smoke, are Lin Ling and the others still in St. Light City? They're still here. They seem to have just arrived at St. Light City and are curious about everything here. That's why they haven't left yet. Think of a way to make them leave Vatican City. Lin Ling and the others had just arrived here, and they didn't know where to go if they left. Of course, they wouldn't leave casually. Just as they were about to find an inn to rest, someone suddenly came to pay them a visit. It was a woman as beautiful as a fairy. "Excuse me, are you looking for the giant god clan?" The woman looked at Senior Zhu Chuan and smiled. "Yes. Do you know where the giant god race is?" Senior Zhu Chuan was shocked and quickly nodded. "I know, because I owe the giant god clan a debt of gratitude. Then, I sensed the aura of the giant god clan on you, which is why I asked." The woman introduced herself. "My name is Fairy Hai Yao. If you want to find the giant god tribe, please follow me." Okay. Zhu Chuan was extremely excited at the thought of seeing his clan. "Lin Ling, I'm afraid something's wrong." Saint Guyi frowned and whispered to Lin Ling. Lin Ling also nodded. Feeling that everything was too coincidental, he secretly transmitted his voice to Zhu Chuan. "Big brother Zhu Chuan, this woman is a little strange. We'd better be careful." At this moment, Zhu Chuan was chatting with the woman. The woman was indeed very familiar with the giant god clan. She knew exactly who was in the clan. Zhu Chuan trusted her even more. "Lin Ling, I'm sure she knows the giant god clan because they have always been mysterious. However, she's very familiar with their members. Senior Zhu Chuan, you should know that we have a lot of enemies now. I'm afraid that this woman is sent by our enemies. If she tries to lure us into a trap, we will all be wiped out. So you must be sure." Lin Ling said telepathically. Zhu Chuan pondered for a moment, then glanced at Fairy Hai Yao and nodded heavily. "I'm sure. Okay, then we'll follow you." Lin Ling said to Lei Gong and the others. Lin Ling, thank you. Zhu Chuan's face was full of gratitude. I haven't seen my clan in a long time, and I really want to see them. However, I'm sure that Fairy Hai Yao knows the giant god clan. After saying that, Zhu Chuan said a few more words to Fairy Hai Yao. Okay, I'll take you to see the giant god clan now. They're not far from here. Fairy Hai Yao smiled and then led Lin Ling and the others out of Holy Light City. Lin Ling, since Senior Zhu Chuan is so sure, then it must be fine. We're probably overthinking it. Yu and Yuer, and the others believed in Zhu Chuan. I hope so. Lin Ling still felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't pinpoint what it was. Of course, people like Qing Zhu, Lei Gong, and Sheng Yi also felt the same way. Everyone, just be careful. Even if something happens with our strength, we should be safe and sound. Taoist master of many treasures comforted them. Everyone continued forward. Zhu Chuan and Fairy Hai Yao chatted and laughed. It seemed that they were quickly getting familiar with each other. Fairy Hai Yao kept talking about the giant god clan, which made Zhu Chuan believe her even more. The others followed behind but didn't find anything wrong. They also gradually believed in Fairy Hai Yao. Only Lin Ling and Qing Zhu still felt that something was wrong. They looked into the distance and could sense that the aura in the distance was somewhat fishy and gloomy. Fairy Hai Yao, how long more do we have to walk? Do we need to pass through that place in front? Lin Ling suddenly asked. No, it's just in front. Fairy Hai Yao turned around and smiled. Everyone be careful. Lin Ling suddenly shouted. Without waiting for Fairy Hai Yao to say anything, he shouted. Let's go back to Holy Light City immediately. Your Excellency Lin Ling, what's the meaning of this? Fairy Hai Yao frowned. I brought you to see the giant god clan out of kindness, but you're going back halfway. You should know that I wasted a lot of time for you. Can you afford to pay for that time? However, everyone ignored her and followed Lin Chen toward Holy Light City. Lin Ling, you're not putting the giant god clan in your eyes. Fairy Hai Yao was furious. Lin Ling, what's going on? Zhu Chuan didn't know what was going on. It's the rotten race. I can sense the aura of the rotten race ahead. Regardless of whether we've wronged Fairy Hai Yao or not, safety is the priority. Let's return to Holy Light City first. Lin Ling said. Okay, we'll listen to you. Zhu Chuan could only nod. Lin Ling, where are you going? At that moment, dark clouds surged from behind. Upon closer inspection, they were all formed by insects. The experts of the rotten race had arrived. The person in the lead wore a stinking cloak and held a huge pool of decay in his hand. He was the fastest and came from afar. The rotten god. Lin Ling sucked in a breath of cold air. In the past, he had seen the rotten god's avatar, so he recognized the rotten god's appearance. No way, the rotten god has personally come. How far is Holy Light City? Can we make it back in time? Everyone knew that a great calamity had arrived. The rotten god was the strongest leader of the rotten race. With their strength, how could they be a match for him? It was possible that they would all be wiped out. Chapter 53:38. It's all me, it's all me. Zhu Chuan pounded his chest and screamed in pain. He knew that if he hadn't trusted Fairy Hai Yao and tried his best to protect them, they wouldn't be in danger. Brother Zhu Chuan, let's not worry about this for now. Returning to Holy Light City is the most important thing. Lin Ling looked back and saw that the rotten race gods were getting closer and closer. Everyone follow me, Lin Ling shouted and sped up. Fortunately, they weren't too far from Holy Light City. There was still a chance of survival. Zhu Chuan, you're the one who killed them. Ha ha ha, you're the sinner among them. Suddenly, a loud laugh rang out. Fairy Hai Yao was holding a mirror and putting on makeup. She smiled cunningly and said, How do you think I know the giant god race? That's because several of our god clans joined forces to suppress the giant god clan. This war has been going on for several years now, so I know exactly who your giant god clan has. Oh, that's right, your giant god clan has suffered heavy losses. You're all hiding in the 7th level, not daring to show yourselves. So it's you. Zhu Chuan was so angry that he almost couldn't breathe. The guilt in his heart grew even stronger. Brother Zhu Chuan, don't be fooled. There will be plenty of opportunities for revenge in the future. Let's return to Holy Light City immediately. Lin Ling shouted at Zhu Chuan angrily. He knew that Fairy Hai Yao was deliberately angering Zhu Chuan, so that he would lose his mind and be caught. Lin Ling, something's wrong. With the rotten race god's strength, it would be easy for him to catch up to us. But now he's only closing the distance. Qing Zhu looked at the roiling clouds behind them and suddenly frowned. You're right. Lin Ling's eyes lit up. He guessed, unless this isn't the real rotten race god. No, he should be the real rotten race god. But I heard that the rotten race god has many clones. Maybe this is just one of them. Qing Zhu guessed. Lin Ling immediately recalled the scene he had seen with the rotten race god. At that time, he had also encountered a clone of the rotten race god. Even the Yellow Emperor, who had just broken through, could defeat him. However, it was clear that this was definitely a clone. It was just that it was stronger than the one he had seen last time. Lin Ling, you still want to leave? Seeing Lin Ling's group getting closer and closer to Saint Light City, the rot god suddenly waved his hands and used a powerful divine ability. Everyone be careful. Lin Ling sensed a mysterious wave of energy coming and immediately warned him. Rumble. At the same time, the ground produced a huge suction force. Then the ground sank, and a huge pit appeared. The soil was churning, and a smelly liquid was oozing out. Upon closer inspection, the stinky liquid contained bones, other miscellaneous items, and even a large number of corpses. Rotting pond. In the past, when Lin Ling clashed with the decay god avatar, he was also pulled in by this pool of decay. He knew that as long as he was submerged in this pool of decay, no matter how strong he was, it was useless. Lord Lin Ling, it's the pool of decay. Xingyi also shouted. In the past, he had also encountered this kind of rotten pond and knew how terrifying it was. Charge out. Everyone mobilized their god essence and urged out their universe power, but they still couldn't escape the pulling force of the pool of decay. At the same time, the gods of the rot race arrived. They surrounded the pool of decay, and their bodies suddenly dissolved into a smelly river water that poured into the pool of decay. In the end, only the rot god and Fairy Hai Yao were left standing there. Fairy Hai Yao was clearly not a member of the rot race. At this moment, she looked at Lin Ling's group with disdain. You want to fight the rot race with just you? You really don't know life from death. Fairy Hai Yao coldly said. Not just you, even if the giant god race meets the rot race, they can only take a detour. With that, she stared at Lin Ling. You are Lin Ling? A little god who fought from the end of the Dao Tower to the peak. I thought you were strong, but you were suppressed to this extent as soon as you arrived. How disappointing. The 7th level is the battlefield of the universe's strongest gods. Little brat, you are still too inexperienced. The voice reached the pool of decay, and everyone was furious. If Fairy Hai Yao hadn't deceived them, they wouldn't have ended up like this. Lin Ling and the others were angry, but they also found it strange. After all, they didn't have much enmity with Fairy Hai Yao. Why would she hate them so much? You will have retribution. Zhu Chuan gritted his teeth and stared at Fairy Hai Yao, his eyes red with anger. When Zhu Chuan was on the 6th level, he lived in seclusion with the giant god race. He was aloof from worldly affairs, so he didn't think about the dangers of the world. Brother Zhu Chuan, ignore him. Lin Ling shouted at Zhu Chuan. Then, he and the others resisted the suction of the earth with all their strength. Lin Ling, the sky has been sealed. Lei Gong wanted to rush out of the sky, but there was a powerful force blocking them from approaching. And above the earth, the fierce suction pulled everyone in. The most terrifying thing was that the rotten liquid was constantly rising. Block it with all your strength. This pool of decay is not invincible. There is a limit to its strength. Lin Ling shouted. His talent fused, and he used all his strength to prevent himself from being pulled in by the suction. Lin Ling, this can't go on. We have to break this pool of decay. Qing Zhu sensed the pool of decay and couldn't help but say solemnly. How about this? Everyone, gather all our strength to break into the pool of decay. Life and death will depend on this. Lin Ling only pondered for a moment before making a decision. Everyone present was very strong. They could block the suction of the pool of decay, but this was only delaying time. A day, a month, or a year later, they would still die. It was better to gather all their strength to break into the pool of decay. Of course, if they failed, they would die without a doubt. All right, we'll do as you say. Everyone knew this, but they would rather die in battle than be trapped in the pool of decay for a year. Seeing that everyone had agreed, Lin Ling was the first to use all his strength. His powerful divine power, physical strength, universe power, and world will all blasted into the pool of decay below. Under Lin Ling's powerful strength, the smelly pond water that was constantly floating up actually started to sink. In the past, Lin Ling had fought against the pool of decay, so he knew the weakness of the pool of decay. This Lin Ling is much stronger than before. At the edge of the pool of decay, the decay god avatar narrowed his eyes. Thinking of Lin Ling's strength in the past, and then thinking of Lin Ling's current strength, he was still very surprised. But his lips curled into a disdainful smile, because the current Lin Ling still couldn't break his pool of decay. Everyone use all your strength. At this time, Lei Gong and the others' attacks also arrived. They all used the world will's power. Rumble. The gradually sinking pool of decay, under everyone's joint efforts, sank into the ground. Here's our chance. Everyone was overjoyed, but Lin Ling frowned. He knew that the pool of decay wasn't so simple. Sure enough, the decaying liquid that should have disappeared began to rise again under the decay god's sneer. Although it wasn't as fast as before, if this continued, it would sooner or later drown everyone. It seems that my strength is still not enough. Lin Ling narrowed his eyes and opened the square prison. Chapter 53-39. Everyone, let's work harder. The decaying water is rising again. Lei Gong and the rest roared as they activated their autonomous force and bombarded the ground. Eastern Emperor Bell. Saint Guyi activated his powerful Chaos Divine artifact. As for Qing Zhu, she transformed into a giant ape and smashed the decaying pond with her huge arms, causing the decaying pond's water to soar into the sky before falling back down like rain. Outside the decaying pond, Fairy Hai Yao's expression changed. She was afraid that these people would rush out of the decaying pond and chase after her. Originally, she didn't think much of Lin Ling and the rest, but after seeing them attack the decaying pond together, she knew how terrifying their power was. She didn't dare to underestimate Lin Ling and the rest. Lord Decaying God. Fairy Hai Yao immediately looked at the decaying god beside her, but she found that he was indifferent. The black face under the hat revealed a disdainful smile. All of this meant that the decaying god wasn't afraid of them at all. As expected, although Lei Gong and the rest were attacking the decaying pond, they were only suppressing the stench of the decaying pond. The water was still rising slowly, and if this continued, Lei Gong and the rest would be submerged. At this moment, Lin Ling was about to release the square prison, but he glanced at the decaying god at the edge of the decaying pond, then at Lei Gong and the rest who were still working hard, and made a decision in his heart. He knew that if he released the square prison, the decaying pond wouldn't be able to withstand it, and would be destroyed in an instant. However, Lin Ling didn't want to reveal his trump card too quickly, and attract the decaying god's attention. After all, the square prison was a matter of great importance. If Lin Ling revealed it, who knew how many great gods on the 7th floor would be watching him? Especially since he was new to the 7th floor. He had to be more cautious. How long can you guys last? Lin Ling looked at Lei Gong and the rest. Lin Ling, what are you planning to do? Taoist Master of Many Treasures immediately asked. He knew that Lin Ling had gone through many life and death situations. With his experience, insight, and unique vision, he must have thought of something. I need you guys to help me hold on for a while. I want to break through. Lin Ling said. He had 8 dantians in his body, and with the cosmos exquisite heart from the red-haired man on the 6th floor, he could use it to break through. Break through? Here. Taoist Master of Many Treasures' eyes widened. This doesn't seem to be a good place. Breakthrough. Lei Gong and the others were also shocked. This was the most critical moment. Lin Ling's combat strength was comparable to half of their combined strength. If Lin Ling withdrew his power, how could they withstand it? Junior brother, are you confident you can break through? Green Bamboo asked. Lin Ling was currently an initial stage deity realm cosmos giant god. After reaching this realm, it was extremely difficult for him to break through. Have you forgotten that the red-haired man gave me a universe core on the 6th level? Everyone understood, but they still felt that Linling was a bit impulsive. Only Qingzhu pondered for a while before nodding with a smile. Junior brother, go ahead and break through. We can hold on until you succeed. She then looked at everyone and said, don't forget that Linling's fighting power has always been very strong. Once he breaks through, his overall power will increase tenfold. At that time, he might be able to break through the pool of decay by himself. Everyone's eyes lit up, and they nodded in unison. I'll have to trouble everyone. There was no time to lose. Linling hurriedly sat down cross-legged, held the heart of the universe, and quickly refined it. Outside the pool of decay, the god of decay sensed that the resistance had weakened. He was startled, but when he saw Linling cultivating, he was shocked. This Linling is actually cultivating. The god of decay frowned. Generally speaking, shouldn't it be safer to resist the pool of decay? After all, breaking through wasn't something that could be done in a day or two. It was even possible for the breakthrough to fail. Even if one was lucky enough to succeed, the pool of decay would have flooded up by then. Hee, a broken pot is about to break. I find it funny. This Linling thinks that after breaking through, he has the power to resist the pool of decay? Fairy Haiyao laughed with disdain. She wasn't familiar with Linling, so she didn't think that his power would increase by leaps and bounds after breaking through a realm. Don't worry about them. Without Linling's help, they'll die even faster. The god of decay shook his head. He wasn't in a hurry, knowing that this would be a long battle. After all, he could see that other than Linling, there were several other gods in the pool of decay who were quite strong. In terms of overall strength, the majority of these people could fight against a deity-level late-stage cosmos giant god, or even defeat him. Hold on. Without Linling's suppression, the surface of the pool of decay rose even faster. Lei Gong and the others clenched their teeth and held on. But green bamboo exploded with an even stronger power, making up for the gap between Linling and himself. At the same time, Yu also urged the power of her true body. A snake tail appeared behind her, and as it danced, a wave of heavenly power suppressed down. Hong. The pool of decay continued to explode, and the speed of its rise slowed down. Linling seemed to be breaking through, but he was actually paying attention to everyone. If there was any danger, he would definitely release his final trump card, the Four Corners Prison. Fortunately, it seemed that everyone could still hold on. The exquisite heart of the universe in his hand gradually disappeared, and appeared in his dantian. The terrifying thing was that this exquisite heart of the universe was like the birth of a universe. Streams of ancient power enveloped the 8 dantians, providing them with an endless supply of spiritual energy. This spiritual energy was the ancient spiritual energy from the beginning of the universe. The density of this spiritual energy made Linling feel that it wouldn't be difficult to open the 9th dantian. With this thought, Linling couldn't help but feel a little excited because he had always wanted to open the 9th dantian, but he just couldn't find a suitable breakthrough treasure. And now, the exquisite heart of the universe seemed to have enough spiritual energy to support it. Should he open it? In a short time, Linling thought about a lot of things, but he finally gave up. If it was any other place, Linling wouldn't recommend trying, but if he tried here, everyone would be drowned in the pool of decay. Moreover, he had an intuition that the exquisite heart of the universe wasn't enough to open the 9th dantian. Full force breakthrough. Linling finally made the decision to pour all the spiritual energy of the exquisite heart of the universe into the 8 dantians. Hong hong hong. The 8 dantians roared, and all of them were transforming. Realm-swallowing beast, supreme netherwind dragon, human king's flame, thunderlock true body, heavenly dragonbone, demon hell body, Vajra Bodhi, eternal killing world. In fact, many of these talents had reached their limits, and only a few of them were godly existences. This was also the reason why Linling's breakthrough was so difficult. However, the exquisite heart of the universe was still a rare universe that hadn't matured. The spiritual energy it contained could be said to be as much as an ancient universe. Even if Linling's talent was ordinary, under the dense and endless spiritual energy, his 8 dantians were still transforming. One of the dantians began to explode, as if the universe had reached its limit. But soon it was reborn. After the rebirth, it finally stepped into the middle stage of the god-level universe giant god. Next was the second Dantian, the third Dantian. Chapter 5340. Continuous booming sounds resounded in Linling's Dantian. The heart of the universe was indeed a universe that hadn't matured yet. The spiritual energy it contained was beyond imagination. As his Dantians broke through one by one, Linling's godly energy was also increasing crazily. Originally, Linling's deity energy was 1,500,000, but as each of his Dantians broke through, his deity energy increased as well. Gradually, his deity energy reached 2 million, then 3 million. And when all 8 of his Dantians broke through to the middle stage deity realm universe giant god realm, his total deity energy reached 4 million. This godly energy had greatly exceeded that of a late-stage deity realm universe giant god. It could be said that even if Linling didn't use his innate talent fusion, ordinary late-stage deity realm universe giant gods wouldn't be his match just by relying on his own strength. And once he used his innate talent fusion and all his trump cards, he might even dare to fight against a ruler. He was indeed worthy of having 8 Dantians. After breaking through, his strength had increased by 8 times. But breaking through was too difficult. If not for the heart of the universe, and relying on ordinary universe treasures, it would be impossible. Linling was inwardly shocked. He then began to stabilize his realm, and quietly exited his cultivation state. And while his breakthrough seemed fast, the truth was that it took a long time. In the pool of decay, Thunder God and the others were all exhausted, taking turns to restore themselves. They used the power of divinity and the power of the world's will, but they still couldn't stop the rising of the pool of decay. The ones who became the main force supporting everyone were Qingzhu, Yu, and Xingyi. Qingzhu's strength had always been a mystery. The more critical the moment, the more power she could erupt. For example, her current strength was already unparalleled among the late-stage deity realm universe giant gods. And Yu might be reincarnated, but her origin was extraordinary. She had the mysterious godly body of the Niwa clan. As for Shengyi, his Eastern Emperor Bel was constantly growing. After reaching the 7th level, it was as though it had shed the mortal world, and its power had greatly increased. If not for the 3 of them, the pool of decay would have already flooded up. People could erupt their potential under pressure. Qingzhu and the others were like this now. And there was another person who suddenly arrived. It was Bai Yusheng. He had obviously reached the 7th level faster than Linling and the others, and just happened to be in the vicinity. When he saw that Linling and the others were in trouble, he immediately went to help. He was the reincarnation of a descendant, and the one following him was Chang'e. Both of them had powerful backgrounds, and with their full support, they were able to buy time for Qingzhu and the others. It was the god of decay. Bai Yusheng looked at the mysterious man on the other side of the rotten pool. He could guess who he was, but he didn't attack the rotten god. He knew that he was no match for the rotten god. So he attacked the rotten pool, hoping to buy time for Qingzhu and the others. Gulyalu. However, even with so many people working together, the water in the pool was still rising, and gradually, it reached their calves. Moreover, everyone had already flown to the highest point, leaving less and less space for them. Linling, hurry up. As Qingzhu continued to attack, she also looked at Linling, who was among the crowd. This Linling was truly courageous. He was about to die, yet he still dared to break through. The rotten god at the edge of the rotten pool sneered. After sensing for a moment, he finally mobilized more power. This was because he still had many clones in other places, and his main body was on the 8th level. Some of these clones were fighting and needed power to support themselves, but some of the clones' battles had already ended, so he could transfer power. Linling, our grudges should end. Moreover, there are so many world wills here. I'm very curious to see what will happen to me after I devour their power. The rotten god's eyes were filled with anticipation. Right now, everyone's attention was on the Dao Tower. They had forgotten the terror of the world will's great calamity and the mysterious world wills. However, the rotten god didn't forget. He had a feeling that in this battle for the Dao Tower, the world wills would rise like a new force. Fortunately, he could now obtain a large amount of world wills at once. Especially Linling. He always felt that Linling was hiding the secret of a myth, which made him extremely curious. Goyulu. After the rotten god mobilized the power of the other clones, the pool's water rose even faster. The rotten god still had power. Qingzhu's expression changed greatly. She had thought that the rotten god had reached his limit, so she was confident that he could last longer. Senior sister Qingzhu and the others were in danger. Bai Yuxing's hands moved crazily, constantly shooting out descendant arrows. When they landed on the surface of the rotten pool, they were blocked by a thin film. Of course, although they were blocked, they also consumed the power of the rotten pool, indirectly helping Linling and the others. Qingzhu, let us help you. At the same time, Lei Gong and the others didn't have time to recover. They all urged the world will's power to suppress the rotten pool below. With the addition of everyone's power, the rotten pool was undoubtedly affected. However, the pool's water still rose, but the speed was much slower. Lei Gong and the others all stared below. Seeing that the pool's water was still rising, their expressions became extremely solemn. They couldn't let the pool rise. The water rose. Everyone put in more effort to suppress the pool's water. Taoist myriad treasures roared. But at this moment, everyone discovered that the slowly rising pool's water suddenly stopped moving, remaining motionless at a limit. A success? Lei Gong and the others were shocked, and they all laughed excitedly. Could it be that the rotten god's power had reached its limit? Longyang laughed. Qingzhu frowned and shook her head. No, I don't think the rotten god's power has weakened much. Everyone, look, the pool's water is falling. Xingyi suddenly roared, and the pool's water was sinking. This time, everyone was shocked, because this was the first time they saw the pool's water sinking. Similarly, the rotten god was also shocked. According to his guess, the pool's water shouldn't be sinking. His eyes suddenly swept around, and then he stared at a figure, and his pupils shrank. Linling, Linling. At the same time, Fairy Hai Yao beside him also screamed, Linling. This gaze gradually made Qingzhu and the others react. They looked back and found that there was a person standing behind them, urging a powerful divine power to attack the rotten pool below. Brother Ling. Lord Linling. Everyone shouted excitedly. They had finally waited for Linling to succeed in his breakthrough. Moreover, was it Linling who caused the pool's water to sink? If that was the case, then Linling's strength had increased by too much this time around. Thank you for your trouble. Linling smiled at everyone. After the talent fusion, the divine power, physical power, universe power, and the worlds will all burst out, bombarding the pool below. Boom. With a violent explosion, the pool's water quickly evaporated and sank at a speed visible to the naked eye. In your dreams. Outside the rotten pool, the rotten god roared angrily. He didn't expect Linling to succeed in his breakthrough, and after the breakthrough, his strength had increased tenfold, as if he had become a different person. He mobilized all his power and bombarded the rotten pool, determined not to let Linling and the others escape. Rotten god, you've used your 3 axes, now it's my turn. Linling sneered and looked calm. Although the one in front of him was the powerful rotten god, after all, it was just a clone. He was confident that he could break through the encirclement. Chapter 53-41. Come down for me. Linling fused his innate talents, and his godly power continued to climb. After reaching 4 million, it came crashing down like an avalanche. Bang bang bang. The decaying pond water, which was originally dropping, was now dropping even more crazily. Linling, don't even think about escaping. The rot god was enraged. He channeled all of his power into the decaying pond, wanting to refine Linling and the rest. He was a little anxious because he was so close. In the end, Linling succeeded in breaking through and became so powerful after breaking through. Fairy Hai Yao was also anxious. If Linling and the rest were to escape, she had a feeling that Linling would definitely find her for revenge. Insignificant skill. Linling snorted in disdain. He could feel that this rot god avatar was not as strong as he thought. He channeled his physical body's power and attacked the decaying pond again. With this new power, the decaying pond water sank again. The expressions of Green Bamboo and the others changed greatly. They felt that after Linling's breakthrough, his strength had actually surpassed all of them combined. It could be said that the current Lin Ling could be considered an invincible existence among the giant gods of the universe. Still not enough? Again. Lin Ling roared again, and channeled his universe power to attack the decaying pond. His Lin Ling universe was the universe power of the four worlds. After entering the decaying pond, it caused the pond water to sink again. Again. Lin Ling also added his world's willpower, and his world's willpower was at the ancient level. Rumble, rumble. The decaying pond water dropped at a speed visible to the naked eye. Lei Gong and the rest were ecstatic. Ever since they were trapped, this was the first time they saw the pond water drop so crazily. It seemed that they had a chance to escape. Next to the decaying pond, the rock god's expression became even more unsightly. Rock god, I'll go first. Fairy Hai Yao saw that the situation was not right and immediately ran away. The rock god ignored her and didn't try to run away. He just stared at Lin Ling. He knew that if he could use the power of his 3 avatars, he could still suppress Lin Ling. However, the other 3 doppelgangers were also in battle and could not mobilize their strength at all. He could only swallow the consequences of his actions and watch as Lin Ling broke free. Rumble. The pool of decay began to tremble violently. Qing Zhu and the others saw this and helped Lin Ling, directing the remaining energy towards the pool of decay. Boom. With a violent explosion, the pool of decay finally exploded. A mysterious power dissipated, and the ground returned to normal. Then Lin Ling and the others quickly shot out. Finally out. Sensing that the air was filled with ancient spiritual energy, and no longer had a fishy smell, everyone felt as if they had just survived a calamity. Thinking back to the previous scene, they still felt guilty. If Lin Ling hadn't successfully broken through, perhaps they would have died here. Damn, that bitch Fairy Hai Yao ran away. Lei Gong looked around and angrily cursed. If Fairy Hai Yao hadn't tricked Lei Gong, they wouldn't have encountered such danger. She can't escape, Zhu Chuan coldly said. Fairy Hai Yao wanted him to believe her, and gave him a jade pendant from the giant god clan. However, this jade pendant had always been with Fairy Hai Yao, so it still had her aura. If he used this aura, he would be able to sense which direction Fairy Hai Yao was fleeing in. Of course, there was a time limit. Once this aura weakened, Fairy Hai Yao would eventually escape from everyone's sight. Rock God. Lin Ling stood in the air with his clothes flapping. He took a step forward and walked towards the rock god. This was not the first time he had met the rock god. They could be considered old rivals. He knew that the rock god wanted nothing more than to kill Lin Ling. At the same time, Lin Ling also wanted nothing more than to kill the rock god. On the path to the peak of the Dao Pagoda, one of them had to die. The rock god was indeed worthy of being called the strongest god of the rot race. Even though he was no match, he didn't run. Perhaps his pride and identity didn't allow him to escape. At worst, he would just destroy one of his avatars. Lin Ling, oh Lin Ling, your wings are becoming more and more mature. That year when we parted, you were just an early cosmos giant god, but now, you're already a ruler. You've made me have a whole new level of respect for you. The rock god said indifferently with a smile on his face. You're worthy of being the host of a world's will. However, there are many heroes on the 7th floor. You can't hold your ground with your current strength. Sooner or later, we'll have to fight again. At that time, I'll mobilize even more power to bring you to justice. Hee, the next time we meet, I won't be the same person, Lin Ling said with a smile. He had some respect for this great enemy. You're right. The god of decay nodded. Then I will kill you before you grow up. Maybe not you, because I have many enemies. The Silver Moon race, the Myriad Oceanic race, the 9 Conch race, Dipankara Buddha, and the 9 stars of the universe. Lin Ling said. You're right. The 7th floor is the pinnacle of the battlefield. Whether you can survive against these rulers is unknown, but I still believe that you'll die at my hands. I'll definitely obtain your world's will. The rock god's eyes burned with passion. In his heart he had already accepted Lin Ling as a ruler, someone as famous as Dipankara Buddha and the others. Until we meet again. The rock god's body began to rot. He didn't wait for Lin Ling to attack and chose to commit suicide. After all, he was a proud man. Even if his avatar died, he couldn't die at the hands of an enemy. You want to die? In your dreams. Shengyi's face was filled with anger. He didn't want to let the rot god off so easily, but Linling stopped him. After all, it was only an avatar, not the main body. It didn't matter who killed it. Ha ha ha. The rot god was quite bold. His avatar rotted away, laughing non-stop. Linling and the others watched as the rot god turned into nothingness. Everyone let out a sigh of relief. They didn't expect to win the battle against the rot god again. This was the second time. Let's go find Fairy Haiyao. Linling looked into the distance. They didn't know where to go, so they might as well deal with Fairy Haiyao first. But there are many divine beasts on the 7th floor. It won't be good if we run into them, Qingzhu suggested. Don't worry. That woman is very cunning. She definitely knows the safest path. We shouldn't run into any divine beasts if we follow her. Linling was confident. Fairy Haiyao had come to the 7th floor earlier than them, and explored a larger area. She definitely knew how to avoid danger. And with Fairy Haiyao's help, not only could they explore the map, they could also kill Fairy Haiyao. That's right. We can't miss this opportunity. If we miss this chance, the aura of the jade pendant left behind by Fairy Haiyao will dissipate, and we won't be able to find her again. Zhu Chuan was undoubtedly the most excited. After all, if it weren't for his guarantee, Linling and the others wouldn't have been in danger. Then let's chase. Seeing that everyone wanted revenge, Linling immediately took the jade pendant from Zhu Chuan's hand. After sensing it, he flew in a certain direction. They've caught up. Fairy Haiyao was running in front, but she could sense that someone was spying on her jade pendant. She guessed that Linling and the others had caught up. This scared her so much that her face turned pale. She suddenly felt regret in her heart. Right now, she only hoped to stall for time. Once the aura of the jade pendant dissipated, Linling wouldn't be able to find her. Chapter 5342. Fairy Haiyao was very fast, but the map in her hand was limited, so she didn't dare to explore some dark places. Suddenly, her eyes lit up as a huge ancient city appeared in front of her. There were 3 majestic statues in the city, towering into the clouds and faintly discernible. The land tablet of the 3 gods. Fairy Haiyao was delighted. She quickly flew down and rushed toward the entrance of the huge city. This huge city was actually located in a valley-like place. It was surrounded by towering mountains that reached into the clouds. This city had been built for hundreds of years. It was said that the first gods to arrive in the 7th layer occupied it, and the most famous of them were the 3 gods. These 3 gods were ancient gods of the universe, and had never experienced the great calamity of the world's will. They had many connections in the 7th layer, and many gods and rulers gave them face. Fairy Haiyao was fortunate enough to know one of them called the sheep god. Of course, the reason was that the sheep god had always been eyeing her beauty. It was just that Fairy Haiyao didn't like him. This time, she would definitely be taken advantage of if she asked for his help. Who is it? Just as Fairy Haiyao approached the entrance of the valley, a god stopped her and sized her up. I'm Fairy Haiyao. I know the sheep god and hope to enter the city. Fairy Haiyao said hurriedly. She looked back and could sense Linling and the others' auras approaching. You know the sheep god? The god guarding the entrance wanted to take advantage of her, but after knowing Fairy Haiyao's background he didn't dare to. Then you can go in. One of them, a thin-faced god, nodded. Great god, there are people chasing me. Don't let them in, they want to kill me. Fairy Haiyao said to the thin-faced god. How dare you touch the guest of the sheep god? Go in, those people won't be able to enter the city. The thin-faced god patted his chest and said, maybe we can catch them for you. If that's the case, then I'll have to thank you, great gods. Fairy Haiyao was delighted and then entered the city. She had a cold smile on her face. Linling and the others were just newcomers and didn't know about her connections on the 7th level. Before, she could ask the rotten god for help, and now she could ask the 3 deities for help. Let's see how Linling and the others will fight with me. After entering the city, Fairy Haiyao immediately contacted the goat deity. Oh, it's Fairy Haiyao. What a beauty! Come to the arena of gods in the city. This old man is right here. Hearing Fairy Haiyao's voice transmission, the goat god seems to be very happy. Fairy Haiyao was a little surprised. Based on her understanding of the sheep god, He should have come to greet her personally. Why was he hiding in the arena of gods? Could it be that the arena of gods had something more important than her? Hee, my great beauty, don't think too much. The main thing is that I've met an enemy. Now that I'm trapped in the arena of gods, everything will be fine as long as I get rid of her. The goat god's voice came again. All right, I'll be right there. Fairy Hai Yao didn't think too much about it, and quickly ran towards the Colosseum of Gods. The Colosseum of Gods was very famous in the area. Through battles between gods, one could obtain each other's maps. So many gods liked to come here. Not long after, Lin Ling and the others also arrived. They all frowned as they looked at the city surrounded by huge mountains. This Fairy Hai Yao is indeed cunning. Seeing that she can't escape, she immediately hid in a crowded place. Zhu Chuan cursed angrily. They were confident that they could capture Fairy Hai Yao after another incense stick's worth of time, but a huge city blocked their way halfway. Let's go in. Lin Ling frowned slightly and led everyone into the city. Wait. The gods at the city gate had already locked onto Lin Ling and the others. When they saw them approaching, they secretly sneered and stopped Lin Ling and the others. Do you have an entry token? The emaciated god said indifferently. That we don't have one. Lei Gong glanced at Lin Ling and then said, then hand over your map and we'll let you in. The skinny god continued. What kind of rule is this? Why do we have to hand it over when others don't? Lei Gong felt that something was wrong. After they saw Fairy Hai Yao enter, a few other gods also entered, but they didn't have to hand over anything at all. They're others. They come here often, so naturally, they don't have to hand it over. You're newcomers, so newcomers have to follow the rules. The thin god said indifferently. Is that so? Then we won't go in. Let's go. Lin Ling sneered and led Lei Gong and the others away. This time, the gods guarding the city gate couldn't react. Weren't these people chasing after Fairy Hai Yao? Why did they leave just like that? Previously, they thought that Lin Ling and the others would definitely enter the city, so they solved the problem. Who knew that Lin Ling and the others didn't follow their plan at all? Wait! The thin god shouted again. You can't just leave like this. You still have to hand over the map. Sir, we have to hand over the map even if we don't enter the city. What kind of rule is this? Lin Ling slowly turned around with a mocking look on his face. This. The thin god was speechless. He said unyieldingly. In the three gods city area, all gods have to follow our rules. Otherwise, you're challenging the three gods. Your Excellency, you should know that we're here for that woman, and she's begging you for help. So you're purposely looking for trouble. Lin Ling wasn't an idiot. He had already guessed what was going on. What woman? Don't change the topic. Are you going to hand it over or not? The thin god's eyes flashed as he continued unyieldingly. Fine, I'll hand it over. Lin Ling pondered for a moment, then suddenly nodded. He walked toward the thin god and took out his map. The gods guarding the gate didn't expect Lin Ling to be so cooperative. As expected of a newcomer, he was too easily frightened. However, they had already promised Fairy Hai Yao. So even if Lin Ling handed over the map, they wouldn't let Lin Ling and the others go. You're smart. The thin god walked forward, wanting to take Lin Ling's map. After all, the most valuable thing on the 7th floor was a map. Perhaps these newcomers' maps contained places they hadn't been to before. Lin Ling handed over the map. However, the moment the thin god touched the map, Lin Ling instantly launched an attack. His godly energy and fleshly body erupted as he grabbed the god's neck. These gods guarding the gate were all deity-level late-stage universe giant gods. To the current Lin Ling, this level of strength wasn't enough. What are you doing? The others' expressions changed drastically. Looking for trouble? I'd like to see how long you can protect her. Lin Ling said coldly. He exerted strength in his hand and crushed the god's neck. These people clearly didn't intend to let Lin Ling and the others go. Since that was the case, they might as well strike first. After the god was killed, his corpse transformed into a thin gray rabbit. It seemed to be his godly body. This made Lin Ling and the others a little surprised. Chapter 53-43. How dare you kill Lord Shanbei? Staring at the rabbit in Lin Ling's hand, the gods at the gate were enraged and attacked Lin Ling's group. Lin Ling turned back and nodded at Lei Gong and the rest. These people were just ordinary late-stage universe giant gods. Lei Gong and the rest could deal with them. Lin Ling then looked at the jade pendant in his hand. The aura within the jade pendant was dissipating, but it was pointing at the city. This meant that Fairy Hai Yao was still in the city. Lin Ling immediately rushed in the direction of Fairy Hai Yao. Hong. Sheng Guiyi stood by Lin Ling's side, protecting him. Whenever a god appeared, Sheng Guiyi would summon the Eastern Emperor Bell and smash it down. With a boom, several late-stage deity realm cosmos giant gods were suppressed and turned into beasts like wild boars and weasels. This three-god city was extremely strange. The gods seemed to be transformed from animals. Looking at Lei Gong and the rest, ordinary universe giant gods were no match for them when they used the world willpower. The world willpower. These people are the hosts of the world willpower. Many people were watching from afar. When they saw the strength of Lei Gong and the rest, many had their own guesses. Of course, Lin Ling and the rest were not famous on the 7th floor. Only a small portion of people could guess their origins. The world willpower? Could it be because of Lin Ling? It should be. He looks very young and is definitely not Dipankara Buddha god. He actually commanded so many hosts of the world willpower. Many people squinted their eyes and were shocked. The gods in this city are so strange. I remember a legend. In the ancient primordial era, there was a mountain full of wild beasts. Later on, a powerful god passed by this mountain and planted the seeds of cultivation. These wild beasts gradually heard of the great Tao and finally transformed into humans. Right, that mountain seems to be called Three Gods Mountain. Zhu Chuan suddenly exclaimed. No wonder they are all animals. If that's the case, the city should be called Three Gods City. Lin Ling nodded. It should be. And the god who planted the seeds of great Tao seems to be the strongest ruler of the 8 great deity generations. Zhu Chuan said. The 8 great god generations are the strongest gods in the universe, second only to the creation god. They have yet to enter the Tao Tower, or else the Tao Tower will stir up a storm of blood. Lin Ling could not help but sigh. The closer he got to the end of the Tao Tower, the more powerhouses appeared. With his current strength, he estimated that he could barely walk around the 7th floor. How dare you kill people in Three Divine City? A large number of gods rushed over from the front. They were all dressed in Taoist robes and had beards. They gave off the feeling of immortals. Where is Fairy Hai Yao? Lin Ling asked indifferently. What Fairy Hai Yao? I think you're just trying to find an excuse to make trouble. What fairy are you talking about? The middle-aged man at the front had a mustache, but his mouth was pointed and his cheeks were like those of a monkey, making him look a bit comical. Moreover, although he denied it, Lin Ling saw that his eyes were flickering. Obviously, he knew Fairy Hai Yao. It seemed that Three Divine City and Fairy Hai Yao had a certain friendship. Otherwise, how could they protect her like this? Then he recalled how those deities had stopped him and the others at the main door. Realization dawned on Lin Ling. It seemed that if he wanted to kill Fairy Hai Yao, he would have to break into Three Divine City. Kneel down and admit your mistake. The middle-aged man shouted again. If you can take one of my punches, I, Lin Ling, will kneel down and admit my mistake. Lin Ling did not intend to talk nonsense. He fused his innate talent, and his figure appeared in front of the bearded middle-aged man. He punched out. This seemingly simple punch was actually mixed with the powerful power of the gods and the power of the fleshly body. The overall strength was already in the quadrillion level. It must be known that an ordinary early god-level universe giant god only had 1 quadrillion godly energy, 2 quadrillion godly energy in the middle stage, 3 quadrillion godly energy in the late stage, and 4 quadrillion godly energy in the peak stage. And Lin Ling alone had 1 quadrillion godly energy. He had already reached the god-level universe giant god level. Not good. Your Excellency, stop. The bearded middle-aged man was full of disdain at first, but after sensing Lin Ling's godly energy, his expression changed. How was this a god-level universe giant god? This was simply the strength of a ruler. Lin Chen did not hold back. With one punch, he destroyed the bearded middle-aged man completely. He died without even transforming back into his true body. Even the few people beside the bearded middle-aged man were implicated and killed with one punch. Such powerful strength. The remaining people's pupils shrank. They did not dare to block Lin Ling anymore. They ran towards the depths, and when they panicked, they ran on all fours like wild beasts. Obviously, although they had transformed into humans, they still retained some of the characteristics of wild beasts. It was just that they had heard of the great Daos of the 8 great gods. After entering the great Daos, their strength was much stronger than many demonic beasts who had transformed into humans. That's Lin Ling. Who would have thought that Lin Ling would also come to the 7th floor? Among the crowd, someone narrowed his eyes. It was a god from the Silvermoon clan. The Silvermoon clan had a deep hatred for Lin Ling. Now that Lin Ling had come to the 7th floor, they were naturally restless. Ba Lin Ling has finally come. Similarly, the Buddha god from the 3 godly gates of White Mountain was also in 3 God City. After seeing this scene, he clenched his fists and his eyes flashed. Lin Ling was the #1 enemy of Dipankara Buddha god. Now that he had appeared on the 7th floor, the 3 godly gates of White Mountain, Burning Heart, and Lamp Heart would definitely go all out to capture Lin Ling. This was especially so when the Buddha god saw that there were several world-will hosts following Lin Ling. This made him realize that this was no small matter. 3 God City was in chaos. Gods from all sides were watching. In fact, in this ancient city, there were many gods that were not weaker than Lin Ling. However, they were not from 3 God City and were only here to participate in the arena of gods. Therefore, they did not interfere in this matter. Of course, they also knew that the 3 gods were not weak since they were able to survive for so long on the 7th floor. Moreover, they had many connections and backings. This Lin Ling wanted to cause havoc in 3 God City, but it would not be so simple. Lin Ling. Lei Gong and the rest followed Lin Ling, and saw strange gazes from the people in the city. We will leave after killing Fairy Hai Yao. Lin Ling naturally knew that if they swaggered into 3 God City like this, it would be easy for them to be surrounded and attacked. However, he was still confident that they would be able to escape unscathed before stronger gods arrived. As for the 3 gods, Lin Ling had investigated them before. They were indeed strong, but if Lin Ling used the square prison, these 3 gods would not be enough to deal with. At the center of the city, there was a huge martial stage. This was the arena of gods. To be honest, the 3 gods had only opened the arena of gods here to provide a venue. The real deciding factor was the gods fighting in the arena. Among them, the winner would obtain the loser's map. That was why so many gods had come here. There were many such arena of gods on the 7th floor. After all, the powerful gods who provided the venue could obtain 1% of the map. What's going on? At this moment, 3 old men were sitting at the edge of the arena. They were looking behind them because of the commotion. The 3 of them were different. One had a black face and was tall and sturdy. One had a long face and was thin and slender. The last one had a triangular face and a goat-like beard. Chapter 53-44. They're here. Fairy Hai Yao guessed what was going on. She was so scared that her whole body trembled as if she had seen a demon. Who are you? How dare you barge into 3 God City? The black-faced elder suddenly stood up and roared like a tiger. His roar attracted the attention of all the gods in 3 God City. Some were gloating, some were sneering, and some were confused. 3 God City was so famous. Why did these people dare to barge in? Weren't they going to the tiger's den, even though they knew there was a tiger there? We're here for her. Senior, if you hand her over, we'll leave immediately. Lin Ling looked at Fairy Hai Yao indifferently. Her? The skinny elder with the goatee couldn't help but laugh. Do you know who she is? How dare you take her? Then I'll offend you. Lin Ling knew that these people wouldn't let her go, so he didn't plan on wasting time. He attacked directly. He exploded with all his strength and used Penga's true body. Talent fusion, coupled with the power of the world's will, he blasted the ground. You're asking for death. The 3 old men did not expect Lin Ling to dare to make a move here, but when they saw that Lin Ling's strength was not weak, they all dodged. Lin Ling, on the other hand, had transformed into a giant that could split the heavens and earth apart. He smashed his fist into the ground, causing countless gods to be implicated. On the other hand, Fairy Hai Yao wasn't affected, mainly because Lin Ling planned to leave her to Big Brother Ju Chuan. This guy is crazy. Fairy Hai Yao's eyes widened. Suddenly, A large hand grabbed her neck and flew her toward Zhu Chuan. It was Lin Ling. "Save me, goat god!" Fairy Haiyao shouted. She didn't expect that even though she hid in Three Gods City, these newcomers still dared to barge in. Weren't they afraid of being surrounded by the gods? "Let her go, or I'll kill you!" The elder called Goat God shouted angrily. His body suddenly enlarged, and a white whip appeared in his hand. Divine lightning gathered in it, and he slashed it at Lin Ling. "Big brother Zhu Chuan, kill her!" Lin Ling felt the powerful force behind him. He immediately threw Fairy Haiyao aside and turned back. He gathered all his strength and punched at the divine lightning. Pong! A powerful force exploded. It was as if the universe was being destroyed. More than half of Three Gods City was overturned. Countless buildings and streets were tumbling in the sky. Pung pung pung. At the same time, Lin Ling, who had transformed into the Panga giant, couldn't withstand the impact of the divine lightning. He staggered backward, and with every step he took back, a god would be killed by the divine lightning. One had to know that the gods who appeared in Three Gods City were all deity-level universe giant gods, yet none of them could resist the godly thunder on Lin Ling's body. From this, one could see how terrifying the goat god's godly thunder was. This type of divine lightning was called the three-wood divine lightning. After the goat god was enlightened into the Tao, he learned it from a fusang tree on the divine mountain. With this divine lightning, the goat god was invincible. "He's not dead." Goat god was shocked. His three-wood divine lightning contained 1 quadrillion units of godly energy. Who among the godly cosmos gods could withstand it? "Break for me!" Lin Ling finally stopped and roared at the sky. It was as if Pangu was splitting the heavens and earth. He was extraordinarily brave. Hung long long. The divine lightning around Zhongyu was blasted out in all directions and landed on the gods. Many gods were killed, and when the divine lightning landed on the ground, it blasted huge holes in the ground. After reaching the middle stage of the godly cosmos god realm, Lin Ling's battle power had increased exponentially. After his innate talent fusion, his total strength was also 1 quadrillion units. After all, his godly energy was originally 4 quadrillion. His innate talent fusion had increased it to 8 quadrillion, and his fleshly body strength was 2 million. It could be said that Lin Ling was now an invincible existence among the godly cosmos gods. So ferocious. Seeing the giant's roar shatter the triple-wood divine lightning, all the gods in Three Gods City were shocked. They were filled with curiosity towards this god who had suddenly appeared. What kind of god was this? Wasn't he too strong? Lin Ling. Lei Gong and the others clenched their fists in excitement when they saw Lin Ling unscathed after taking a blow from one of the three gods. No wonder Lin Ling dared to bring them into Three Gods City. It turned out that Lin Ling's strength was no longer the same as before. Fairy Haiyao. Zhu Chuan had already caught Fairy Haiyao. His eyes were filled with murderous intent as he looked at her. He believed that he had no enmity with Fairy Haiyao, but this woman had deceived him. In order to help the rotten god, she dared to lie to them and almost caused them to be wiped out. This was also the reason why Zhu Chuan trusted Fairy Haiyao. Therefore, if Fairy Haiyao didn't die, he wouldn't have the face to see Lin Ling and the others. Brother Zhu Chuan, this is a misunderstanding. Fairy Haiyao was really panicking. The god of decay couldn't stop Lin Ling, and the three gods couldn't stop Lin Ling either. She had kicked an iron plate. A misunderstanding. Zhu Chuan's body suddenly grew larger and transformed into a god of the giant god clan. He held Fairy Haiyao in his hand and looked majestic. It's really a misunderstanding. Fairy Haiyao was so scared that she cried. Her heart was filled with regret. If she knew that this group of people was so terrifying, she wouldn't have provoked them. However, at that time, she thought that these people were just newcomers. Who knew that they were so powerful? I was wrong. Brother Zhu Chuan, please take into account that I'm young and let me live. Fairy Haiyao cried and begged for mercy. If I let you live, I won't be able to explain it to them. Zhu Chuan's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Great goat god, save me. Fairy Haiyao finally knew that Lin Ling and the others were determined to kill her. Now, she could only rely on the three gods. You let her go. The huge goat god let out a fierce roar. He had long been moved by Fairy Haiyao's beauty. This great beauty had delivered herself to him with great difficulty, but in the end, she was surrounded and killed by these strong enemies. If Fairy Hai Yao died in front of him, what dignity would his three-god city have left? Brother Juchuan, settle the grudge between you and her. At this time Lin Ling suddenly shouted. Fairy Hai Yao, if you want to blame someone, blame yourself for provoking the wrong person. Juchuan's hand suddenly clenched. His giant arm had great strength and directly crushed Fairy Hai Yao into a meat paste, turning her into an azure jellyfish. Juchuan waved his arm, and the crushed jellyfish was thrown out. Then Juchuan struck out with his palm. Rumble. This palm strike contained the sun, moon, and stars. It used the most ancient power to destroy the azure jellyfish. At this point, Fairy Hai Yao finally fell. After Lin Ling and the others escaped, she fled all the way to Three Gods City. She thought that with the protection of the three gods, she would be safe. In the end, she still couldn't escape death. You're all dead. The three gods' faces darkened. They really killed her, and in front of them. How could these people let them leave alive? Lin Ling. At this time, a familiar voice floated over. In the crowd, a woman floated up and looked at Lin Ling in surprise. Ning Qingxin. After seeing the woman, Lin Ling couldn't help but be stunned. He was extremely surprised. Chapter 53:45. Lin Ling, why are you guys here? Ning Qingxin looked at Lin Ling in surprise. She had felt that Lin Ling looked familiar before, but after Lin Ling attacked, she realized that it was Lin Ling. She didn't expect that Lin Ling would also come to the 7th level, and even have a conflict with the three gods. We just arrived at the 7th level. Lin Ling couldn't help but smile. Ning Qingxin was one of the 9 stars of the universe, and had saved Lin Ling a few times in the past. They were friends who had risked their lives for each other. So you just arrived. I thought you had been here for a long time. Ning Qingxin smiled and looked at Lin Ling from head to toe. She couldn't help but be shocked. After not seeing him for so many years, this guy's strength had increased by quite a lot. Ning Qingxin. Yu and Inuer also knew Ning Qingxin and greeted her with smiles. You guys are here too. Ning Qingxin looked at Yu and the others, then flew to Yu and the others and hugged them. Ning Qingxin, why are you in Three God City? Lin Ling asked with a smile. I was at the Arena of Gods. I was just about to finish off my opponent when you brought people in and interrupted our battle. Ning Qingxin replied. She glanced at Lei Gong, Qingzhu, and the others. When she realized that everyone was here, she was even happier. Are you guys done talking? Everyone in the city was looking at Lin Ling, but Lin Ling was catching up with someone else. This made the three gods furious. They killed their way into Three Gods City and did whatever they wanted. Now they even dared to ignore them. These people were dead meat. I forgot. There are still those 3 old ghosts. Lin Ling then looked at the 3 gods and said lightly, 3 gods, right? This is between me and Fairy Hai Yao. Now that Fairy Hai Yao is dead, Three God City has nothing to do with it. Let's mind our own business. Do you think that's possible? The goat god narrowed his eyes filled with killing intent. Speaking of Fairy Hai Yao, the anger in his heart intensified. After all, this was equivalent to killing his lover. Whoever kills him, I'll give my map to him. In a fit of anger, the sheep god tossed out a huge temptation. A commotion broke out among the gods in the surroundings. The sheep god was an extremely ancient god, one of the first few gods of the 7th floor. His map must have recorded more than half of the 7th floor. On the 7th floor, the god's goal was the map. Even if they didn't use it themselves, they could still use it to trade, and it would be worth a lot. This youth's strength is unfathomable. He was able to withstand one move from the sheep god, but he's only a middle-stage deity cosmos giant god. He must have borrowed the power of a treasure, and this treasure can't be used many times. This is an opportunity. If I can get the sheep god's map, why should I risk my life in the arena of gods? There were bound to be fierce men when there was a great reward. In a short period of time, each of the gods had their own ulterior motives. They were even afraid that others would steal the credit if they were too slow. You dare to cause a ruckus in Three Gods City and interrupt our arena of gods? How dare you? Hand over your life. A god who was confident in his strength rushed out. His powerful deity energy transformed into a huge net that suppressed Lin Ling. He was a late-stage deity cosmos giant god. And he was even stronger than ordinary gods, so he had some confidence in himself. You overestimate yourself. Lin Ling's target was Fairy Hai Yao. Now that Fairy Hai Yao had been killed, he had no intention of causing trouble if the three gods let it go. But if the three gods didn't intend to let him go, he wouldn't be merciful either. Scram! Lin Ling roared angrily and threw a punch forward. Although he hadn't been on the 7th floor for long, he wasn't familiar with the place at first, so he had some scruples in his actions. But this scruples wouldn't last long. After all, this didn't match Lin Ling's temperament. He didn't rely on luck to reach the 7th floor from the 1st floor of the Dao Pagoda. Hong! His fist was like a meteor, shattering the huge net formed by deity energy. His fist didn't stop as it met the god's attack head-on. His deity energy has reached 1 quadrillion, or even more. The god's expression changed greatly. His deity energy had reached 8 quadrillion, but Lin Ling had easily broken his divine ability. This meant something. You're courting death. He roared and activated the universe. His universe was the universe of 4 realms. In addition to his divine power, his strength was now stronger than before. His universe had 9 stars, and the 9 stars were aligned to form a powerful primal energy. Hong! But Lin Ling's fist arrived. It was like Pangu splitting open the heavens, splitting the earth, breaking all universes. Pung pung pung. Under countless gazes, the god's universe was shattered. The 9 stars exploded continuously and turned into fine powder. Lin Ling's fist was like a comet as it reached his chest. The next moment, the god stopped moving. He lowered his head and looked at his chest. He could feel his vitality dissipating. How dare you kill my junior brother? A white-haired old man suddenly rushed up, transformed into a divine crane, and arrogantly charged at Lin Ling. Along with his speed, his deity energy also increased crazily, reaching 1 quadrillion. Although this god's cultivation was also at the late stage of the deity realm, his deity energy was so terrifying that it had reached the ruler level. Another one courting death. Lin Ling's fleshly body and deity energy combined. It seemed to be 1 quadrillion, but in reality, it had already exceeded that. Furthermore, he stretched out his palm, and the power of faith condensed to form a sword of faith. Die! He slashed out. The power of the world's will and the power of his innate talent combined to form the most ancient power in the universe. Hong hong hong. A deafening sound rang out, and countless gods were sent flying by the impact. When they looked at the white-haired elder again, his head flew up and was severed by a single sword strike. His corpse slowly floated down. Next, the corpse of the first god also slowly floated down. In the blink of an eye, 2 super-powerful deity realm universe giant gods died. Those 2 were experts who participated in the arena of God. Since they dared to participate in this arena, they must be much stronger than ordinary deity realm universe giant gods. But they were actually killed in 1 move. This person's strength must have reached the ruler level. How terrifying. He's only a middle-stage deity realm universe giant god. People discussed animatedly, and their expressions became more solemn. Because according to this assessment, unless it was a deity realm universe giant god or a top-notch god, it was impossible for them to be a match for this youth. Of course, a ruler could still kill this youth. For a moment, no one dared to act rashly. Even if there were no lack of ruler-level experts present, it was rare for them to remain silent. And Ning Qingxin only realized how much Lin Ling's strength had increased after witnessing Lin Ling's strength explode once again. She suddenly laughed. I believe that Lin Ling's enemies are very regretful that they didn't kill Lin Ling at the beginning of the Dao Pagoda, which led to Lin Ling's growth. She knew that many gods had the opportunity to kill Lin Ling. For example, Rock God, Dipankara Buddha, and the others. But their attention was on the latter half of the Dao Pagoda. They didn't want to waste time at the beginning of the Dao Pagoda to kill Lin Ling. But because of this, they missed the best opportunity. Chapter 53-46. You have some strength, but it's still not enough for this old man. The goat god's figure suddenly grew taller, and a white lightning whip appeared in his hand. Thunder roared. He didn't do anything. He simply slashed down at Lin Ling, and the lightning whip smashed down on Lin Ling like thunder. Ruler? Lin Ling laughed coldly. This was the first time he had fought against a sovereign realm expert. Lin Ling wouldn't have dared to fight him head-on when he had just arrived at the 7th floor. But now he wanted to see how strong a ruler was. The sword of faith appeared in his hand, and he mobilized all his strength to resist the lightning whip. Lin Ling, do you need my help? Seeing this, Ning Qingxin immediately shouted. I don't need this old goat's help. Lin Ling replied. His words infuriated the goat god. Where did this brat come from? He was too arrogant. Hong. The lightning whip and Lin Ling's sword of faith collided, and a terrifying force swept through Three God City. The goat god's lightning was ancient, and his godly body seemed to be of a very high grade. Lin Ling used all his strength, but it was still difficult for him to resist. Of course, to the goat god, this young man was too strong. He was a ruler, but he couldn't kill the other party. One had to know that this was already the second time. The first time, he relied on a treasure to protect his body. But this time, it wasn't because of the treasure. Who is this young man? Why does he have such a mysterious and extraordinary strength? He can block my ruler's strength with just a deity realm middle stage cosmos giant god. The goat god's hair danced, and his face was ferocious. What a powerful brat. In the distance, the deer god and the tiger god frowned. They didn't act because they didn't think the young man was a match for the goat god. But now, it seemed that even if the goat god was stronger, he would still need a long time to kill the young man. Goat god, I'll help you. The tiger god suddenly roared. His body became huge, and his head became a tiger's head. He held a huge saber in his hand and strolled toward Lin Ling. He also had the strength of a ruler, and he was the strongest of the three gods. Shameless! Seeing that the tiger deity was helping her, Ning Qingxin also shouted. Colorful lights appeared on her palm. They didn't look big, but they were mixed with a mysterious power. Her figure disappeared on the spot, and suddenly appeared in front of the tiger god. Little girl, you're courting death too. The tiger god bellowed in disdain. The giant tiger blade slashed down. This seemingly simple slash was actually mixed with the ancient power of the Great Path. Boom. Space continued to collapse, and more than half of the entire Three God City was destroyed. However, what shocked everyone was that the seemingly delicate woman was actually able to block the tiger god's attack. These people are so powerful. They can even fight against sovereigns. Although that young man's cultivation level is low, he has a mysterious power. That woman's cultivation level doesn't seem low. That's a sovereign. Voices of discussion continued to float out. Lei Gong and the others heard the voice from afar, and their expressions changed drastically. Ning Qingxin had actually reached the sovereign realm? Big brother, second brother, let me help you. Seeing that the tiger deity and the goat deity were unable to gain any advantage, the deer deity roared. Suddenly, 5 rays of light appeared on his body. They represented the most ancient power of the 5 elements in the universe. The power of the 5 elements transformed into 5 giant pearls that circled around him. Then, the deer deity suddenly raised his hand, and the 5 elements pearls transformed into a necklace that flew towards Lin Ling. In the deer deity's opinion, as long as he killed the young man, the remaining woman was no longer a concern. Let's attack too. Since the other party had shamelessly joined forces, Lei Gong and the others stopped watching the show. They all activated the power of the world's consciousness to fight against the 5 elements pearls. There were many experts among them. Not only did they have the host body of the world's consciousness, but they also had Qing Zhu and Yuwa's inheritance, Yu and Sheng Yi's Donghuang Bell. They actually managed to block the 5 elements pearls. In the sky, the 5 elements pearls, which carried the most ancient power of the universe, collided with the various powers, and was actually stopped in mid-air. Such a confrontation shocked the people of Three God City once again. No one had expected this group of people to be so powerful. Even the 3 sovereigns of Three God City were no match for them. What are you all still looking at? Kill them all. The 3 gods were flustered and exasperated. They then ordered the gods around them to help. After all, they could see that the current situation was only a draw. If others joined in, the balance would definitely tip. Kid, do Do you think you can stop us with just your people? What a joke! Three Gods City has been able to survive on the 7th level for so many years. How can we not have some ability? The goat deity sneered when he saw the gods around him getting restless. Kill. At the same time, the other gods charged over. The three gods had a lot of connections on the 7th level. Anyone who knew them came to help. On the other hand, the gods of the Colosseum of Gods did not casually interfere. Are you afraid? The goat deity's face was ferocious. How dare you kill Fairy Haiyao? I won't let you leave this city alive. Comparing numbers, Lin Ling suddenly sneered. That's right. I have more people than you. What can you do to me? The goat deity said coldly. Sorry, but I've never been afraid of anyone when it comes to numbers. Lin Ling released the square prison. This was his ultimate trump card. A ray of light shot out from his body and turned into a square stone tablet. Then a large number of gods rushed out and pounced on the gods around him. What is this? Impossible. How can you have so many experts with you? The goat deity was dumbfounded. He had just said that they would compete in numbers, but this young man had called out numbers that were not inferior to his. If not, I still have more. Lin Ling released another square prison. The total number of people in the two prisons instantly exceeded the number of gods invited by the three gods. Most importantly, the gods who came out of the square prison were not weak. Oh my, why are there so many gods? Everyone, use your full strength. The gods who wanted to help were also extremely depressed. Lin Ling, I didn't expect you to come to the 7th level. Suddenly, the sky was illuminated by Buddhist light. Then an old monk with long white eyebrows floated there. He stared at Lin Ling and then at the square prison. There was obvious surprise in his eyes. Seal. He threw out a string of Buddhist prayer beads and used the chaos to envelop Lin Ling. Dipankara Buddhist god. At this moment, Qing Zhu and the others saw who it was. They did not expect Dipankara Buddhist god to suddenly appear at this critical moment. One had to know that this magnate was supposed to be on the 8th level. This bald donkey. Lin Ling's expression changed drastically. If Dipankara Buddhist god had appeared earlier, he could have taken precautions. Who knew that this despicable Buddhist god would suddenly appear and attack without warning? Now, even if Lin Ling wanted to summon the other two square prisons, it was clearly too late. Coupled with the goat deity's obstruction, Lin Ling could only watch as the Buddhist prayer beads enveloped him. A Buddhist chant rang in Lin Ling's mind. Surprisingly, the prayer beads did not cause any substantial damage. Instead, they disappeared into Lin Ling's body. Umitba, I have planted a Buddhist seed in your body. In time, you will definitely convert to Buddhism. In the sky, Dipankara Buddhist god suddenly laughed. Chapter 53-47. The Buddhist voice floated in Lin Ling's mind. He could feel a pure power exploring his body, as if a bandit had invaded. Brother Guangchengzi, brother monkey, help me! Lin Ling shouted, letting Guangchengzi and the others fight the goat god. He then focused on resisting the power in his body. Get lost. Lin Ling activated the world's will power and cut off the mysterious power in his body. As for his sword of faith, there was nothing it couldn't slash. That power was split into two, but it was like an earthworm, fleeing in all directions before fusing together again. So troublesome. Lin Ling tried to use the Lin Ling universe to seal the power again. However, he still failed. The power was not sealed by the Lin Ling universe. This meant that only the sword of faith could harm it. The power was righteous, and it began to rush toward Lin Ling's soul power. Lin Ling finally knew that he was in trouble. He could not allow the power to invade his soul. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. He quickly placed the sword of faith in front of his soul. When the power approached, he slashed. Fearful of the sword of faith, the power abandoned the soul and wandered around the body again. Finally, it locked onto a dantian and disappeared without a trace. The Buddhist seed disappeared into the realm-swallowing beast's dantian. Could it be that it wants to absorb something from me? Lin Ling was shocked. After carefully sensing it, he couldn't find that power at all. Seal the realm-swallowing beast's dantian. Lin Ling had no choice but to scatter the world's will power around the dantian to prevent any changes. Then he retreated and watched the fierce battle in Three God City. Why do you have so many strong people? At this moment, the goat god was being suppressed by Guangchengzi and could not fight back. The tiger god was being suppressed by Brother Monkey. The tiger god was being beaten by the giant stick until he screamed. At this moment, they finally knew how terrifying Lin Ling and the others were. They could easily destroy Three God City. Lin Ling, what did you release? Ning Qingxin was also shocked. She had not seen Lin Ling for many years. How did Lin Ling become so mysterious? Looking at the gods in Three God City, they were also being suppressed by the square prison. Everyone was in a panic and did not dare to fight anymore. Lin Ling stood in the sky, his burning eyes staring at Dipankara Buddha in the sky. Similarly, Dipankara Buddha God was also looking at Lin Ling. There was an additional coldness in his eyes on his benevolent face. He obviously did not expect Lin Ling to come to the 7th level, and he did not expect Lin Ling's strength to increase so much. Originally, he thought that when he saw Lin Ling again, he would be able to capture Lin Ling alive. However, Lin Ling had released a large number of powerhouses, which made him realize that it was impossible. Is that the square prison? Dipankara Buddha muttered to himself. Dipankara Buddha. At this moment, Lin Ling's cold voice floated over. Amit Ba. Dipankara Buddha put his palms together and shouted. Demon Lin Ling, on behalf of the universe, I will redeem you. You already have a Buddhist seed in your body. When the Buddhist seed grows bigger, you will definitely convert to Buddhism. Lin Ling was furious. This hypocritical old man had used his battle with Goat God to plant a Buddhist seed in his body. He guessed the power of the Buddhist seed. It should be a time bomb. It would grow with time and eventually devour Lin Ling. At that time, Lin Ling would no longer be Lin Ling. He would definitely be controlled by Dipankara Buddha. Kill him. Lin Ling gave the order to the square prison. Countless gods rushed into the sky and attacked Dipankara Buddha. Dipankara Buddha's eyes searched. He put his palms together and silently chanted Buddhist mantras. He wanted to use karma to infect these gods. He was also the host of the world will, and was ranked 2nd. His world will was extremely powerful. However, there were too many gods around, and they were all extremely ancient experts. In addition, Dipankara Buddha did not appear here in his true body. His true body had already reached the 8th level. Under the siege of so many experts, Dipankara Buddha could not resist at all. His body burned like flames. However, he gave Lin Ling an enigmatic smile. It was as if he was saying, "It doesn't matter if my clone dies, but you, Lin Ling, will convert to Buddhism sooner or later." Lin Ling watched Dipankara Buddha disappear. His expression was still ugly. He looked at Three God City again. This place had already been destroyed. All the gods had fled far away. They were all pale with fear. Only the 3 gods were still desperately resisting. They gathered together and roared. Lin Ling walked toward the 3 gods and said coldly, "We wanted to leave before, but you didn't allow us. Now we won't leave." "Your Excellency, we were wrong." The 3 gods finally felt regret, especially the goat god. He did not even dare to look at Yi Han. They had stayed on the 7th level for a long time, and were very familiar with the various factions. The ones who appeared before them were the people of the White Mountain, Burning Heart, and Burning Heart Divine Gates. They were the 8 great gods of the Chaos Realm. They were not people they could provoke. However, this young man still dared to kill such a huge monster. This showed how terrifying his background was. "You can leave. We won't pursue this matter," the tiger god said nervously. After he finished speaking, he glared at the goat god. It was this guy who had provoked such a powerful enemy for Fairy Hai Yao. "You didn't understand what I said, did you? I said that we won't leave. Your 3 God city belongs to me, Lin Ling." Lin Ling said coldly. He had been planted with the Buddha seed, and the 3 gods said that they would not pursue this matter. Did they think Lin Ling was an idiot? "Kill them," Lin Ling ordered. "Your Excellency, please don't. We know all the great gods." The tiger god roared crazily, but the gods in the prison paid no attention to him. They worked together and suppressed the tiger god. When the tiger god died, he immediately turned into a huge yellow tiger. Next was the goat god and the deer god. They were a white goat and a green old deer respectively. Burned their bodies. Lin Ling was furious when he saw the 3 beasts. He then searched the corpses and found 3 brocade pouches filled with countless treasures. Map. Linling took out the map of the 3 gods and copied it. Then he threw the map to Lei Gong and the others. It had to be said that the maps of the 3 gods were very large and detailed. For example, there were divine beasts nearby, treasures and dangers. Everything was clear at a glance. From now on, 3 Gods City is Linling's territory. Do you accept it? Linling looked at the gods in the distance and said, "Whatever you say, Your Excellency." Yes, it doesn't matter if it's 3 Gods City or any other city, as long as there's someone guarding it. We don't have any objections. To them, it did not matter who was the ruler of this area. The main thing was that there was holy light in this area, which could prevent divine beasts from approaching. If there was a Colosseum of gods, they would be able to obtain the map that they wanted. Let's set up camp here. Linling looked at Yu and the others. They would be chased by divine beasts if they fled outside. It was undoubtedly better to have a home. Yu and the others were very happy. Ever since they entered the 7th level, they were either chased by divine beasts or framed by rotten gods. Now they finally had a safe place to stay.